Donald Trump has filed a new lawsuit in Georgia challenging over 100,000 votes, essentially saying, shut her down. We also have an update that members of the Pennsylvania House and Senate, the Republican Party, are basically saying that the state was not lawfully certified. We also have an order from Supreme Court Justice Alito. Well, basically, this lawsuit challenging the constitutionality of mail-in ballots may be moving forward. It was docketed. And these are major issues that could change the election, I guess. Right now, the media has been adamantly saying President-elect Joe Biden. And I was watching a press conference from Biden earlier, and it was really funny because all these journalists would always say, President-elect Biden, blah, 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 and ask a question. And then Joe Biden actually brings up, when I won the election, as all of you have now noted, and I'm like, it's really weird that they have to keep affirming it over and over and over again. And it could be weird because Trump keeps saying he didn't lose, I guess. But Trump potentially has 2 states being tossed up right now. I'm not saying it is probable that he wins, but these things are moving forward. And Georgia is particularly interesting, specifically because we got video that came out just a couple days ago, I think maybe even the other night, that shows some of the vote counters pulling out boxes. So they say they pulled out the surveillance footage, actual video evidence showing them. They walk up to people, they say something, we don't know what they say. But according to sworn affidavits, the observers there said that they were told to leave. Then on the footage, you see these people pull boxes out from under tables and then continue counting. Well, according to the sworn affidavits, they were the observers were told counting was stopping. It is also estimated that each box contains about 6,000 votes. And, 6 times 4, you have about 24,000 votes there, which coincides with a data released by the New York Times, which was talked about quite a bit, where just around 23 or so thousand votes came in at 12:34 a.m. around the exact same time all this is happening. I'm not saying it's definitive proof of anything. I'm saying this is some of the hardest evidence we've seen so far. But Georgia has basically come out, the Republicans, saying it's not true. We've looked into this. There's nothing. I don't find that satisfactory. I find it very strange. So we're going to talk about this and a bunch of other things. The Bay Area is going on hard lockdown. California is ordering everybody basically stay in their homes. And we're about to see what they're calling the strictest and the harshest lockdowns we've seen yet, even amid governors like Newsom breaking their own rules. Rules for thee, but not for me. So today, we're hanging out with Rudkowski again.
Howdy. I am the executive chairman and head honcho of wearechange.org. I like vanilla ice cream. And interesting fact about me, Chris Matthews of MSNBC called me a right-wing racist teabagger, and Bill O'Reilly called me a jihad-loving liberal. So yeah.
Excellent.
That about describes you.
It's on the news, so it's true. And you're telling me just because Joe Biden put president-elect in the background of him, that doesn't make him the president-elect automatically?
That's the creepiest thing. Yeah.
I mean, I thought that's how it works.
No, I mean, I thought Brian Stelter over at CNN could just say words and they were true. Well, like, not that he reported the news, but that the words he said were infallible and just became reality.
They became true.
So that when he and all the other anchors are like, Joe Biden is president-elect, there's a literal ripple in space-time, and we all get shocked back.
They're like,
and then Joe Biden just appears with the words appear behind him. It's just reality shaping.
Modern-day wizards, but they can't get out of the shower correctly without grabbing their dog's tail. Yes, this is the story that came out today. According to Joe Biden,
this is not the breaking news.
He broke his foot tipping over a shower when he was trying to pull his dog's tail. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked.
This is supposed to be just basic introductions. We got a big breaking story. Trump is suing Georgia again. There's a dispute here. This could call the electoral votes into question, but no. Okay, we'll do the breaking news. Joe Biden said he was getting out of the shower naked, chasing his dog and grabbing his tail, and slipped and broke his foot. And I love the memes. They're like, do we have a president-elect or do we have a 4-year-old chasing the dog and slipping while naked? Like, what is going on with this? Did you guys hear that Joe Biden said he basically said if he disagrees with Kamala Harris, like he said to Obama, he would say he contracted a disease and then resign. And everyone's like, what?
You said that?
Yeah, I started off with my video with that today. It's absolutely mind-boggling to see this poor guy who has metal clips in his head, literally holding back aneurysms. I didn't know this until you started telling me about this. But today's story of what he says happened is absolutely mind-boggling because he was playing with his dog naked out of the shower, but he
Pulling his tail.
Yeah, he didn't mention why.
Why would you pull your dog's tail?
And where does your foot come into
What was he
play in
doing?
all this?
Yes. What
Just like decided to grab the dog's tail.
I
You
have
don't do that.
no
No,
idea, but
you
they
don't do
have
that.
yet to explain it. And I mean, at least we can't say that the next 4 years won't be interesting. They're going to be filled
True.
with a lot of just perplexing, mind-boggling statements that I'm absolutely looking forward to, because it shows you how untrustworthy and absurd government is.
I'd liken a Joe Biden presidency to like a Benny Hill montage, but I don't think that Joe Biden is spry enough to run through a bunch of different rooms while being chased by a constable. You know what I mean?
He has a hairline fracture. Guy can barely
Yeah,
move.
but there's a picture of him putting his full weight on it that people are sending around. He's wearing the boot, and then when he was doing the interview with CNN, they were like, "Why aren't you wearing the boot?" And he's like, "Oh, it's a little clunky, so I'm not wearing it." People think that this is the conspiracy theory. I guess I don't know if it actually makes sense to call it a conspiracy. They think that Joe Biden had to get a CT scan for his brain, and so they just said, "All right, he broke his foot." And so then when he's telling his story, like how it happened, it's one of the most ridiculous stories you've ever heard. Guy getting out of the shower naked, chasing his dog around all slippery, and then falls and grabs his dog tail or whatever. And
Why would he do that?
why would you grab your dog's tail?
With
I'm
his
naked
foot.
out of
He
the
was
shower.
Hold
Yeah.
on. I'm sorry. I should be framing this not in the like actual neutral. Here's the report. I should be framing this in a politically ideologically driven way, like the
Yes.
media does. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Joe Biden ferociously abusing his dog, slips and falls,
Now it makes more
shatters
sense.
bone and ankle.
Oh my.
So he's angry.
See, and then what you do is the title should be Joe Biden abusing his dog, falls, breaks ankle. And then later on you say he was grabbing his dog's tail, comma, which many say is animal abuse, comma.
Yes.
You just add it. Now that we've established that, we can say, today in the news, Joe Biden, comma, a known animal abuser, comma, was talking about his economic plan. Now you can say he beats dogs.
Excellent.
Congratulations. This is the cycle of media. Anyway, this is a long intro. Ian's also hanging out.
He is,
Hey,
yes.
a couple of questions. What's teabagging?
Okay, well,
family
long
friendly
story.
show.
Yeah.
I don't think that.
Why did he call you that?
Yes.
What a weird guy.
Well, because of the Tea Party connection.
Oh.
Chris Matthews was saying anyone a part of the Tea Party was a tea bagger, and that was his kind of term against people.
That's very crude.
And he mentioned it off the
I just-
SPLC that listed me and Ron Paul together as some
Oh.
kind
Teabag-
of.
okay, hold on.
I
I
get
just
it.
would like you to imagine, like, what kind of person do you imagine when you think of the Tea Party?
Post or after Glenn Beck took it over.
I don't know, just 2012.
Right wing.
No, like what
Gaxing flag.
describe the person. What do they look like?
A Tea Party person? Or are we talking about like
Yeah,
a
yeah,
little
yeah.
girl going to
No,
have a
no,
Tea
no,
Party,
no,
or just an actual political?
An actual. What's the first stereotypical view of a Tea Party person?
Originally, it was Ron Paul. It was libertarian. It was right wing.
And then afterwards,
And then
the
after-
people who are out waving the flags.
Yes, those were kind of Glenn Beck, Sarah Palin enthusiasts.
But what do they look like?
Average Americans.
They were like slightly older,
Middle-aged
not
white
old.
people.
Yeah,
Sarah
middle-aged,
Palin. Yeah.
middle-aged white dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The men. So I want you to imagine what Chris Matthews is thinking when he's imagining a bunch of these like middle-aged white
Oh
dudes
my.
waving flags, all bobbing up and down. Like, I'm not going to explain what teabagging is.
Yes, you don't want to do that. But I actually talked to Chris Matthews one-on-one about this. I went up to him during one of the presidential debates, and I was like, "Hey, I'm Luke from We Are Change, WRC." He's like, "Wait, I know that from somewhere." I'm like, "You do?" Yes,
called
that's
me-
because you slandered and lied about me and my news organization. And he's like, "No, I didn't." I'm like, "Yes, you did." I'm like, we got in an argument. He was like, "I never said that. I never did it. I don't know what
play
you're
the video
talking
for him?
about. You're crazy." I literally pulled out my phone. I was like, "You wait right here. You stay right here. Don't move anywhere." Pulled up my phone, played the video for him. I was like, "You watch this." I was like, and he looked at the video and he looked at the microphone that said "We Are Change." He's like, "Oh, right. I gotta go. I don't know. I thought you were with somebody else. I gotta get out of here." I'm like, "You have no honor. You have no." I was like, "What is the evidence? What information did you have to slander and label me this? What did you do? Like how? Like
Nothing.
because that's a major declaration. You have to understand at those times, especially when Barack Obama was president, the SPLC listed me, Ron Paul, and many other libertarians right along the KKK. They even made interactive
What do you think
maps.
they do today?
Yeah, I mean, that's what it kind of began with. And I remember facing him one-on-one. I was like, "Answer me. Tell me why you slandered me." Didn't have an answer.
See all
Couldn't
the
say
stuff,
anything.
all the stuff we're seeing now with like how the media smears and slanders people on the right, and cancel culture. You were like right there in the front. You were the first to be, well, not the first to be, but in the culture war, they started maligning you and Ron Paul and all that. But then you were the first to be demonetized? The first.
Selectively monetized with different videos, specifically not knowing what was going on. We talked to many different executives. We even snuck into some parties where I was able to talk to the head of YouTube monetization. And
this was before there was any kind of concept of monetization.
Yeah.
Or like demonetization.
Well, yeah. No one even knew what was going on. And then you used to have a green dollar sign, but then some of our videos didn't have anything and no one knew what was going on at all. And 3/4 of our income was taken away. Now it's, of course,
there was no
fully
yellow
taken
dollar
away.
sign.
Yeah, there was no yellow. Before yellow, there was just blank and no explanation and no even guidelines or community strikes, nothing. So you went through the terms of services. It said nothing about this exact scenario or situation. So we were kind of left scratching our heads like, what's going on here? Let's talk to some of these people. We reached out to a lot of them, talked to them one-on-one, including the head of YouTube monetization at that YouTube party that me and you snuck into with Casey Neistat and behind him when he was running in there.
Yeah, that was great.
And
walk behind a famous person, you get in any building.
Exactly. I mean, we could get into all these little
all right.
and tricks,
Well,
but that's a whole nother topic
we'll
to
come
get
at it.
into.
We got to talk about breaking news. Don't forget, Lydia's also been sitting here.
I am.
Now
I'm
that
in the corner, I push all the buttons.
Hi, Lydia.
Now that we've made it through the introduction, make sure you smash the like button, subscribe, notification bell, all that good stuff. Check us out on iTunes, Spotify, and all that if you want to catch the show, if you missed the live show. But let's talk about this breaking news, man. This is huge. The election is not over. From Al Jazeera, Trump campaign challenges over 100,000 votes in Georgia. New lawsuit is latest in long line of Trump challenges to U.S. election results, most of which have been thrown out. President Donald Trump's campaign filed another lawsuit seeking to overturn the United States election results. The campaign announced Friday, this time contesting more than 100,000 votes in the state of Georgia. The new lawsuit filed by the Trump campaign and Georgia's Republican Party alleges that massive irregularities, mistakes, and potential fraud took place in the state. Now, you know what I really, really love about this latest lawsuit? When the Republican Party is in it with Trump and they're saying, yes, look at all of these problems. And then when Giuliani drops an actual video and there's a lawyer, an attorney saying, look at this video of people pulling ballot boxes out from under a table after they told everyone to leave and then counting tens of thousands of votes into 1 a.m. with no observers present, Georgia's GOP Secretary of State says he has already investigated bombshell video Rudy Giuliani claims prove voting fraud and says it shows nothing out of the ordinary. You mean to tell me that once everyone leaves, they immediately scuttle over and pull box out from under tables and then start counting them until 1 a.m.? And that's normal?
I want to know what's ordinary
Yeah.
for him in the first place. But Giuliani is calling this the smoking gun and the bank heist video. I mean, you could make a lot of interpretations, but I hope the person in the video is set to testify. I hope she's under oath, and I hope we find out what happened with that USB that was clutched and what else happened in that situation.
That's not in the story, but people have been posting a video that shows a woman with blonde braids. They say it's the same person. I'll be very careful because I don't know what this video is. But you see this woman, she's sitting talking to someone, and then she palms a USB stick and then clutches it, and the camera's like zoomed in, and she stands up and then like slides it in her pocket. There are other videos of people doing this. For what reason are they putting USB sticks into like voting terminals at these polling locations and then pocketing them and walking out? Because you'd think if it was something routine, they'd walk right up and pull the stick and put it in there and talk to people and then take it out, look at it, and, put it away. But they're like palming it, like trying to hide it. So I don't know who that lady is in that video. I can only assume they're saying it's the same person, but that is crazy. It's crazy to me is that's the kind of evidence that you get Bill Barr saying there's no evidence we've seen to date that, would have changed the outcome of the election. Yeah, watching someone stick a USB stick in a machine and then pull it out isn't proof that the election was, flipped. But it is evidence that somebody broke the law. You just can't say they changed the results of the election.
He also said so far. So we're still
to
waiting.
date.
Yeah, to date. So we're still waiting for the exact information. It's important not to jump to conclusions, but with these important events, it's important to pay attention to them and hope that it goes through the right legal process where people could actually get the right information and find out more under oath exactly what happened here. Because, I mean, a lot of people in the mainstream media are saying, enough, let's stop asking questions. It's already done. We have the president-elect. But if we could have 4 years of absolute Russian collusion madness, I think we could allow a few weeks to ask some serious questions about our elections, which, by the way, all the mainstream media pundits telling you to trust the election results were just telling you not to trust it months ago, especially John Oliver on his HBO show, who actually did a pretty good job about Dominion voting machines and the entire problem with electronic voting machines last year. And now
he's denying it.
Now
he's like,
saying,
nope.
If you're questioning the elections, you're part of I think he said a fascistic government, or you're crazy if you're questioning this year's elections. I don't know his exact quote, so I don't want to misquote him. But he's on the complete other spectrum where he was a year ago, providing pretty good solid evidence, pretty good questions, pretty good evidence laid out in front of us, saying that there are some legitimate questions that should be asked about the integrity of our elections.
I watched this video that they put out, where you can see them pulling out a box from under a table. There's a website called Lead Stories, which has defamed me and published fake news about me. So I had a tweet about Epstein and about Bill Clinton being in flight logs and, witness IDing him. And they took that tweet, called it fake news, but then wrote their fact check, which basically confirmed everything. It's just like it's a scam. They say, here's the article, here's the truth, and they don't care what you actually said. They just want to make sure that on Facebook, people who see it, it says fake news. So they fact-checked this story about Giuliani, and they say, it's fake news. It was legal ballot counting, nothing to see here. Why? Well, they asked someone, and that someone said, don't worry, everything's fine. That explains it. Case closed. But here's the best part. One of the quotes they have, this is what the person says. They say, Francis Watson, chief investigator for the Georgia Secretary of State. Yes, the GOP, who said that we've already looked into it, nothing to see here, told Lead Stories during a phone call on December 3rd that the ballots were in standard containers. No one's disputing that. And the work during the time in question had nothing to do with pulling ballots from under the table, she said. Quote, there wasn't a bin that had ballots in it under the table. So what did we see them pull out from under the table that was a ballot box full of ballots and then start counting?
It was an empty bin?
She says, it was an empty bin, and the ballots from it were actually out on the table when the media were still there. And then it was placed back into the box when the media were still there and placed next to the table. There's a video you can watch where a woman with braids walks up to a group of people, then those people all leave, then they walk over to the table, pull a box out from under the table, 4 boxes. They do it multiple times. And this person who's debunking this says it was placed next to the table. You can literally watch the video where it's not next to the table. This is not a real fact check.
Did Giuliani actually say it was proof? I think the headline said that he said it was proof.
He's saying it's the smoking gun.
So
the bank heist video.
He didn't say
That's his
evidence.
quote.
He said proof.
He tweeted, election in Georgia is now proven to be a fraud. Then he tweeted again, the videotape doesn't lie. Fulton County Democrats stole the election. It's now beyond doubt. Go to the tape. Smoking gun from Georgia.
I think he's destroying his credibility by throwing the word proof around so haphazardly. Because might be evidence, but it's definitely not proof. Some video.
It's the hardest evidence we have so far.
Yeah.
But there was a document that was going around showing the vote tabulations in real time. There's been a whole bunch of analysis around this. Now, in one of these data dumps, it was at, I think, like 12:34 a.m. And this is from the New York Times. The New York Times data release on the election night. So it's November 4th, 12:34 a.m. Around 23,900 or so ballots came in, and 98% were for Joe Biden. Now people are seeing this video and going back to those articles and those analyses saying, wait a minute. On this day in Georgia at 12:34 a.m., we know they stopped counting at 1 a.m. That means you've got 4 ballot boxes, which you can see in the video, each estimated to contain 6,000 votes, 24,000 votes. Now people are going back to the previous data and saying 98% for Joe Biden. That looks like they're tabulating those ballot boxes they pulled from under the table. So is it proof? Is it the smoking gun? I think if you went to a regular person and showed them that video, they'd be like, "What?" If you then showed them the data from the election counting releases that were coming in, your average person is probably going to be like, "Oh yeah." So I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying when it comes to these situations that are extremely political, it's proving something beyond a reasonable doubt. For me, I look at this and I'm like, how do you argue against it? What do you have to say? When they're like, oh, no, it was next to the table. No, it wasn't. It was normal ballot counting. Then why do we have 2 sworn affidavits from people saying they were told they had to leave and counting had stopped? Not only that, in Georgia, you know how they claimed a water main broke and they had to stop counting? Never happened.
What?
On election, I remember this. They were like a water main broke in Georgia, so they're sending everybody home.
Really weird.
We also had a story where a guy apparently was a leaky toilet. That's it. Like, what does that have to do with it? Why can't you count votes because of a leaky toilet? There's another story where a guy said that in Georgia, they told everyone they had to leave because counting was done. They were like, no, we're not leaving. So they drove a forklift and blocked the view so they couldn't actually see what was going on.
Yeah, it doesn't help your cause when you're trying to block people from seeing what you're doing. And it doesn't help your cause when you have a record of stealing elections, just like the DNC did against Bernie Sanders. So I still, no matter what, have to give the benefit of the doubt until we have their side of the story, their version of events. I'm still waiting until these court proceedings happen. I want to see more. I want to see everything, and I want to hear the counter argument to what we're seeing right now because I think we definitely deserve
There's
it.
no
right
real
now.
argument right now.
Well,
They're
yeah.
just look. That's why I pulled up the fact check.
Yeah.
When they publish a quote where it's like they looked into it and it said it was nothing, I'm like, that's. Look, I get it.
That's not a response. I want that lady under oath explaining herself,
Exactly.
what she was doing,
You can't just-
and every little thing, described in detail because we deserve that.
Exactly. Coming out and saying, trust me.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I watched a
No,
video.
they're liars. They're liars. They
Yeah.
cheated Bernie Sanders out of the
Well,
election.
these are the Republicans. These are the Georgia Republicans. It's Raffensperger and it's Brian Kemp. These
I'm
are
talking about
Republicans.
in larger picture in this whole election, what we're seeing happening here. There's definitely a lot of anomalies that don't make sense.
For sure. And I think it was wrong what happened to Bernie, especially in 2016 and now. But I do have to say, if you won't fight for yourself, why do you expect me to fight for you?
He took it, he bent over, and he was like, yes, support Hillary, after everyone knew, including his own supporters who were just shocked. Why is he doing this?
Bernie Sanders in 2016, the millionaires and the billionaires in this country are exploiting the working class.
And then he became
in 2020,
a millionaire.
In 2020, no. Outside of that, in 2020, he goes, the millionaires, the billionaires in this country are supporting Joe Biden. Vote for him.
When you say he got cheated out of the election, I know I've heard some stuff about what the DNC did to him.
When you look at Debbie Wasserman Schultz and the way that she was getting the electors during this election, you saw the rise in numbers. You saw there's a lot of different little tricks that were used, during the primaries that a lot of people directly point the finger at the DNC head, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, which was she was fired. She essentially was ousted as the DNC chair and hired immediately afterwards for the Hillary Clinton campaign.
Yep.
And again, this is also the same person that looked at me and told me that there wasn't a deposition matrix.
Disposition matrix.
I keep messing it up.
Yeah.
But yet again, when you look at the DNC,
They were feeding
Bernie
questions to
Sanders,
the media so that Hillary had advantages in debates.
Right.
That was one of them.
There are leaked emails where they were basically talking about how they were doing everything in their power to help Hillary Clinton.
And something about his Jewishness, right, in the leaked emails?
I don't know about
I don't
anything.
remember
about that.
any of that.
But we do
There is
we
something
do
about
have some more serious information, news pertaining to Georgia. So this is from just last night. President Trump's attorneys ask Georgia legislature to overturn election, select own electors, and they might do it.
How do you think this is going to play out? This is what I really wanted to kind of even
I
ask
have no
you.
idea, man.
Where do we go from here? Will it
Well,
go to
there's
this-
so there's some things that could happen.
Yeah.
For one, we get Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Georgia. If these three states, maybe Arizona, maybe Nevada, if their legislatures, which are controlled by Republicans, dispute the election and won't shut up about it, then by December, we're 4 days out. If they don't rectify this in 4 days, that's it.
Yeah, I don't see this
those
ending
votes.
well.
Those votes aren't going to count. Trump's going to win. I'm not saying he's probably going to win. I'm not saying he's likely to. But I'm saying if the legislatures dispute this, it doesn't matter what the governor say because the Constitution is clear that the legislatures decide. If the state legislatures issue a statement to the Supreme Court, to the federal government, saying here's what we think, or just send their own slate of electors without even coming into session, then you're going to have Pennsylvania sends 40 electors instead of 20, and then what? Which ones do we count? I don't know. Democrats are going to be, we got to count the one that Joe Biden won. No, we dispute. You got to count the Trump ones.
Yeah, hypothetically, if Donald Trump wins, I could really see people imploding.
Imploding?
I could see people exploding in the amount of frustration.
Their
Their
heads will explode,
Yes.
and then their quivering masses will start to slowly come together like the Terminator and Terminator 2 and turn into a giant Antifa rage monster.
If it happens, I will be watching CNN intently, and I never thought I would say that. But how do you see the rest of America responding to this? Because a lot of people are pointing to potentially even a bigger conflict.
Look what they did. Look what they did in January 20th, 2016. 2017. Sorry, 2017.
Yeah, I was
They
there.
went around. We were both there, and they went around burning. They torched that immigrants. That poor working class immigrants limo. He had his own limo. He's a contractor. He would give people rides. They torched it.
That was a very famous sight, as well as the garbage can that was on fire with the rest of the mainstream media around it.
But it's because they're like, limousines are for the rich, and it's like it's some poor guy who leased it to run a business to drive people around. He's not rich. They don't care. So look, man, I'll tell you this: if Trump does find a way to flip this, I'm boarding up my windows, man, and I'm in the middle of nowhere. Okay, I'm not really going to board up my windows, but
I don't think you need to.
Not out here. But we went to the armory the other day.
Yeah, of course.
That was awesome.
Luke and we went there and
that was really fun.
bought them out.
Yes, it's very important to be able to defend yourself and have the right to defend yourself.
Oh, the armory.
A lot of politicians have a lot of security guards with machine guns and guns around them, and they think that they could afford themselves protection, but you shouldn't have any protection at all, which is absolutely ridiculous. And I think one of the core strengths of the United States that makes it as special as it is right now is the ability of individuals to be able to arm themselves. The Second Amendment is extremely important, and I think we're heading down a very dangerous road, whether Donald Trump wins or whether Biden comes in and then tries to restrict that right, take away the right of individuals to defend themselves.
It's more than that.
I think it's going to be a very big clash point between Americans saying, no, this is absolutely not okay.
We had on Destiny the other night, and I think one of the arguments he brought up is the perfect example of why Joe Biden thinks he's completely justified in stripping away your rights. When Destiny, who he's a leftist, mentioned that we need a 2-month hard lockdown and the government should support people, I said, don't people have rights? His response, and this is something I've heard a lot from the left, is, do you have a right to drive your car drunk? And my response is, you don't need to drive your car drunk. You do need to make a living and work a job and run your business and pay your employees. Like, those are things you need to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's completely different.
Yeah. That argument is totally irrelevant.
But think about how Democrats, that's how they think. They're like, you can't drive your car drunk. Why would you go outside and get someone else sick? And it's like, because we have to live.
Well, but you need to eat, but you can't steal food if you can't afford it. You don't have the right to steal food if you don't have enough money for it.
Well, what does that have to do with anything?
If you need to eat, but you don't have a right to steal.
But we give people food. We have food banks. We have welfare
Sometimes,
cards.
yeah,
not sometimes.
not
We
always.
literally not like
everyone has access to that stuff.
Well, they
I'm
do.
just saying, it's a technicality, but
like you can go to food banks, you can get EBT cards. I think every state has an electronic benefits system. So if you steal food when you can go to the Department of Human Services and we have welfare programs, it's very different from getting drunk and driving your car. Not only that, you know what the penalty is for stealing food? Typically, slap on the wrist.
yeah.
You know what the penalty is for driving drunk?
Yeah, driving drunk is dangerous.
Yeah, it's a felony. You can't drive anymore. You go to jail. You get an ankle bracelet.
it depends on the state, of course. Some states are more severe than others.
For sure. But there's more here. We got just.
Oh, before we go on, I got evidence about this DNC trying to trash Bernie for being Jewish. Did
Really?
you guys? Yeah, it's an email. This is from Politico, from the DNC CFO Brad Marshall, sending it out to a bunch of DNC people, and it said it may.
Well, don't read it. Don't read it verbatim if they're trashing.
No, it's nothing that you can't say online. But it's cruel that they would do this. It may, no difference. It's a typo. But for Kentucky and West Virginia, can we get someone to ask his belief? Does he believe in a God? He had skated on saying he has a Jewish heritage. I think I read he's an atheist. This could make several points difference with my peeps. My Southern Baptist peeps would draw a big difference between a Jew and an atheist. Marshall wrote
Crazy.
in a message to several DNC communication directors.
So we have there's a lot to talk about, right?
So much behind
there's
the
a reason
scenes
why I
corruption.
highlight Georgia and Trump's attorneys asking Georgia's legislature to overturn the election and select their own electors, because we have this going on right now. Supreme Court again is asked to block Biden in Pennsylvania. Justice Alito has given, let me read it. They say, in a sign that the case, okay, let me stop. This is Act 77. It is the no excuse mail-in voting, the absentee expansion in Pennsylvania. Several Republicans brought the suit to the courts. The lead plaintiff, Mike Kelly, won his election. If they overturn or the judges rule this election was unconstitutional, he causes damage to his own career. That was noted by the judge. They're saying that no excuse mail-in voting is a violation of the Constitution. It was thrown out by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court on narrow grounds that, sorry, you took too long to file. But in the lower court's ruling, they said that these Republicans will likely win on the merits. And what does that mean? I don't know. It could nullify Pennsylvania outright. Well, they've filed to the Supreme Court. And Alito, here's what they say. In a sign that the case is likely too late to affect the election, Justice Samuel Alito ordered the state's lawyers to respond by December 9th, a day after what is known as the safe harbor deadline. That means that Congress cannot challenge any electors named by this date in accordance with state law. State law is irrelevant to the constitutional process. The Constitution says the legislature decides how the elections are run and who the electors are. Internally, the Supreme Court can complain about the legislature, but what the legislature says to the federal government in terms of their electors is an entirely different matter. More importantly, it's really interesting because I'm seeing two messages from the left. They're saying if Alito, Supreme Court justice, has ordered the state to answer by the 9th, that's after the safe harbor provision, meaning they didn't bring the dispute in soon enough. Therefore, the electors are certified. Case closed. Biden wins. But that makes literally no sense. I actually have from congress.gov. It says December 8th, 2020, the safe harbor deadline. The U.S. Code provides that if election results are contested in any state, and if the state prior to Election Day has enacted procedures to settle controversies or contests over the electors and electoral votes, and if these procedures have been applied and the results have been determined 6 days before the electors' meetings, then these results are considered to be conclusive and will apply in the counting of the electoral votes. Okay, based on my reading of that, let's ask a few questions. They say, if results are contested in any state, all right, question, are there results contested in any state by official governing bodies?
Yeah.
Yes.
It seems like it.
Of course.
There's a
It's
lot
an
of hearings
easy yes.
happening now.
I'm just a newbie.
Is it contested?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
In Michigan, in Nevada, in Arizona, in Georgia, in Pennsylvania, there are active disputes. All right. And it's prior to Election Day. And if the state, prior to Election Day, has enacted procedures to settle controversies or contests over electors and electoral votes. Have they? Does that mean general court system? Does that resolve the new complaints that have come up relative to fraud that happened after the fact? See, this is where things get confusing. They say if these procedures have been applied, has anything been applied to rectify complaints about voter fraud from the legislature, especially in Pennsylvania, who have called for an emergency session? Perhaps the argument is, because I'm not a lawyer, the governor has to call a special session because he didn't. There you go. There's no resolution. But now my question is this. What if the Supreme Court is saying, we want your answer by the 9th? Some conservatives are saying Alito set a trap, that if they now have to wait till the 9th to issue their response, maybe they can do it sooner. If they do, then there is a dispute active. The Supreme Court requested a response. Then wouldn't that just basically void those electoral college votes?
That's the question here. Who knows? I mean, Trump
It's
really
gonna-
wants this to go to the Supreme Court because he knows he has the advantage there. And he has a lot of prior lawyers that were on the Bush team in the 2000 contested elections as well. That was contested all the way until mid-December. So how is this going to unfold, especially if the votes aren't certified? If this goes to the Supreme Court, who's going to rule what? It's 2020. I think anything could happen at this stage, but it's very hard to predict.
I think it's the fact that the Supreme Court is involved, which makes this questionable, because there's two ways people are reading it. And some people are saying if they're not resolving this dispute and applying nothing to resolve the controversies because they still exist, then they haven't met the deadline and the election's in dispute. But it says, my understanding is, okay, there's a controversy if the state has a way to resolve these before Election Day, which many of the states do. You go to court, you file lawsuits. And if they've enacted procedures to do such, many of these things have gone to court and they've been thrown out or whatever, then it sounds like it's all resolved. But the Supreme Court steps in and says, this is actually escalating. And if they have to wait till the 9th and the Supreme Court hasn't chosen to accept or dismiss, there's an active controversy in Pennsylvania. How could they then meet that deadline? In fact, it sounds like this actually is bad news for Democrats because there's no way they can resolve it if it's going to Supreme Court. Unless, of course, they sue and argue it's irrelevant what the Supreme Court says to us because the state has already finished this. I'll put it this way. There are legal experts who have said it's not going to happen. It's certified. It's done. There's nothing they can do about it. The Supreme Court has no say, right? The way I put it is you have to understand that these are human beings who can choose to rule and exercise that power. Like when the other day when we were talking about the ballot observation in Pennsylvania, a judge actually ruled when Trump's campaign, Giuliani, they were like 682,000 votes were counted with no observer. And the judge is like, were there observers in the room? And Trump's lawyers are like, well, yes, but they didn't have meaningful access. They couldn't look at the ballots. The judge said, well, the election code doesn't say how close you have to be.
That's
Therefore,
a stupid judge. Or they're paid off or something.
Or he's crooked. So when you and then the left cheers for it. Okay, I'll tell you what. If you're going to cheer for what is obvious to any sane person, a ridiculous ruling, we know what observers are for. There's that, you ever see that photo from Florida where they're like staring at the ballots with the pen and pointing at it?
They're
Bush
to
v. Gore.
observe.
Mm-hmm.
They are there to observe.
What the heck?
And make sure that people are counting properly. For a judge to be like, well, they were in the room. The election code doesn't specify distance, so
While
good to go.
other ones were kicked out and not allowed even in.
Right.
So,
But as long as there's one, that is not what the intent of the law was.
Yeah.
So I tell you, if they can do that, if they can rule that way and the left cheers for it, then I'll tell you this. If the Supreme Court takes this up and then the 4 liberal justices, I include Roberts in that, versus the 5, and the 5 say, we don't care. We're the Supreme Court. Here's our opinion. Boom, it's done. That's it. And they can say, so we got huge news. Look at this. We got a letter. Check this out. It's a huge letter. I think this was posted to, this is being shared around quite a bit. They say 76 members of the Pennsylvania General Assembly. They're basically saying 3 U.S.C. 15 empowers Congress to reject electoral votes that are not regularly given or lawfully certified. The aforementioned conduct has undermined the lawful certification of Pennsylvania's delegation to the Electoral College. For these reasons, we, the undersigned members of the Pennsylvania General Assembly, urge you to object and vote to sustain such objection to the Electoral College votes received from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania during the joint session of Congress on January 6, 2021. We have Pennsylvania's state legislator officially now requesting from PA House GOP News. I'm assuming this is legit. We've got all of these people who have signed on to this. If they have submitted this saying straight up, the results are disputed, we object, how is Pennsylvania going to be counted properly on January 6th? You're going to have Republican members of Congress who represent districts in Pennsylvania saying, we have submitted this letter, we reject these votes, deal with it. Is that enough to get Trump to win? No. That puts Biden at 286. They need 2 more states.
Wow.
So check it out. If they get Pennsylvania and Michigan, then Biden's at 270, he wins. If they get Pennsylvania and Georgia, Biden's at 270, he wins. They need 3 states in order to make this happen. It's actually not that hard to do, which is kind of crazy.
It's possible, but it's still a very big uphill battle, and there's a lot of uncertainties, and there's a lot of things that haven't ever happened before. When we saw what happened in 2000, it was between Bush and Gore in one state.
And
one state.
Right. And a bunch of different counties doing different things.
Yes. And, that was still extremely complicated. This, with all the other states, complicates it tenfold. And now we're set into no man's land where we never were before. There's still a lot of contention. There's even Donald Trump saying that he might not go to the inauguration.
He might hold his own event.
One day he's saying he'll concede. Another day he's saying that he said, quote, if we are right about the fraud, Joe Biden can't be the president. That's an exact quote there. So there's a lot in the air here.
What do you,
and
So listen. I've heard a lot from the media that Trump would stage a coup and all this stuff, but the media's hysterical Trump derangement syndrome. So I'll ask you, what do you think the chances are that it's January 19th or whatever, and Trump gives an address where he's like, evidence of Chinese influence and interference. Joe Biden, we've seen the math, we've seen the evidence. He shows the videos, he shows the charts, and then says, I refuse to accept this. And Trump's already got loyalists in key positions, especially in the Pentagon. What do you think the chances are?
Well, he has some loyalists, but if you look at the Trump presidency, it is mirrored in individuals leaking information. And,
definitely.
And backstabbing him and crossing him and, vice versa. There's a lot of foul play within the establishment against Donald Trump. That's definitely fair.
Yep.
So Donald Trump doesn't have the establishment. He doesn't have a lot of the hardcore Washington, D.C. insiders. He doesn't have the media. He doesn't have social media. He has a couple guys with trucks that ride around with his flag on there, but it's an extremely big uphill battle.
He should have known better. Because when he came in, he took the advice of a lot of these crony rhinos.
Yeah.
And so they were like, yeah. You want Sessions for AG. Yeah. You want Bolton.
He brought out Henry Kissinger. He sat down with Henry
man.
Kissinger before he got elected. He congratulated the CIA.
He was like, it was like he was going to play ball with him a little bit.
Exactly.
And then it was knives out, and they were all grinning. And Trump thought that he could come in and say, okay, I'll work with you guys, but we're going to do things my way. They're like, yeah, whatever you say, Trump. And then they unsheathed those blades. And then it took Trump a couple of years to finally be like, I really should have just fired everyone.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? People say that he won't pardon Snowden or Assange because he's called them both, treasonous, traitors, spies, and all that stuff. But there was a funny tweet where someone, I think Glenn Greenwald tweeted about it. And then someone said, why would Trump pardon them? He's repeatedly insulted them and called them, names. And then Glenn Greenwald said something to the effect of, maybe it's because these people have targeted the deep state intelligence agencies, which attacked and harassed Trump for years, and now he will enjoy some comeuppance or some karma for these people.
Yeah, I mean, he has the power to do it, but we also have to understand that it's because of the Trump administration why Julian Assange is where he is right now. It's because of his direct actions and his administration that Assange is in such a terrible place.
But you know
Edward
why?
Snowden just tweeted out, don't pardon me, please pardon Assange, save his life. His life is on the line here.
You know why Trump is doing it? And why Trump did what Obama wouldn't?
Why?
I think Trump wants to know who WikiLeaks sources are.
That was the part of the deal, part of the bargain that allegedly happened between the Trump administration and Assange.
That was public?
That Assange, yeah. I mean, wasn't that public?
I don't know.
I remember reading articles about that and hearing
There you go.
About that specific story that Trump wanted to know who the source was for the DNC leaks. And if Assange gave it to him, Assange would be let go. If he didn't, he would feel the full brunt of the U.S. empire, and he did. And
Julian Assange will not sacrifice his legacy and his organization. Yeah. And so Trump,
and you got to give him up. You got to give it up to him. I mean, that's courageous. He's sitting in solitary confinement, gave up his life because he wouldn't give up his source.
Absolutely.
And that's more integrity than an iota of what the mainstream.
Yeah, they'll make a movie. They'll make like movies.
But you know what? You know what the scary thing about it is, the difficult question. If we did get the source for the DNC leaks officially on record from Assange, I think it would have been a game changer that would have reshaped the culture war and politics in this country, especially pertaining to Russiagate and where we are today with Ukrainegate. Everything happened, the impeachment. It would have, I believe.
Are you referring to Seth Rich?
No.
Okay.
So that's I don't know where that all is, but I do know that you had someone from WikiLeaks say that they were handed the drive, right? Mm-hmm. If maybe it was Russia, maybe it wasn't. The point is, it would have either confirmed or rejected that conclusion, in which case we would have known definitively. Let's say it was Russia. If we got that answer out of Assange, then we could have been like, whoa, Trump did get information. WikiLeaks was used as an useful idiot so that they could undermine blah, blah, blah. Or it turns out the media and everything was wrong, and it undermines that entire Russiagate.
But at the same time, he's still accommodating to the lunatics in the mainstream media that are literally regurgitating and making crazy theories up about Russian P-tapes.
It was nuts.
Why would you even try to appease him? And if you tried to appease him in exchange for Julian Assange's life, I mean, that's messed up. That's absolutely horrible. And I agree. This is a complex picture. You can't just paint Donald Trump black or white, good or bad. It's far more complex than that because he did talk about bringing the troops back. He actually brought back 700 U.S. troops from Somalia.
No, they're getting moved around.
They're getting whatever out of there.
He's trying.
And most of Americans didn't even know that the United States had troops positioned
Secret
in Somalia.
U.S. wars, dude.
Yeah, there's an AFRICOM whole entire U.S. military unit inside of the whole African continent raging war right now, arming different factions. And I've been there. I've been on the front lines in Somalia, and the picture that's happening there is not a good one, and it doesn't do any favors to the United States. So, I mean, when it comes to Assange, I mean, look at the work he did. Look at the information he released, especially with Chelsea Manning, especially with everything we actually got to find out about the U.S. military-industrial complex that we would never know if it wasn't for him.
As many on the right say, the reason why they're adamant about Trump pardoning Assange and Snowden is that they exposed the deep state.
Yes,
these intelligence, man, think about how crazy it is that for the longest time, if you came out and said they're waging a secret war in Somalia, they'd be like, ooh, he's a crazy guy, thinks the CIA is coming to get him. They call you a conspiracy theorist, crackpot. And then Trump comes along, and all of a sudden, not just Trump, but with Assange, people like Snowden, the veil starts to get removed. And it turns out, could you imagine if the American people actually knew how many secret wars we were engaged in, what they would do? They'd probably revolt.
Yeah.
People don't realize this. And you know what makes it work? The mainstream media, these large media organizations, are complicit. They cover it up because I'll tell you this. I was at a resort in Turkey. In what's the eastern city in Turkey where they do this? It's like the Russian resort. I can't remember the name. Tons of rich people. I was brought there by the executives at Vice. Top level people. Top men. Top men. They bring me to this resort, Antalya. I think that's what it's called.
Oh.
So I'm hanging out with the global elites, man. We're talking people who run telecoms, like CEOs, etc. They're having this meeting where they're talking about North Korea because Vice had gone into North Korea multiple times. And so you get all these rich people sitting around and you get Shane Smith, who mentions that the State Department actually contacted Vice following the North Korea documentary stuff they did. I actually worked on one of the North Korea documentaries for Vice called North Korean Motorcycle Diaries. I went to New Zealand for that because they had the footage. It was the crew the people, they rode motorcycles through North Korea. The State Department wanted to talk to Vice about it. So when you actually have people in the U.S. government, and I'm not saying it's a conspiracy. It's not like they go there and say, this is what you report or else. It's, look, we've got serious security concerns. We just want to make sure that what you report doesn't get anybody killed. You don't want us to come out and say you got someone killed you. No. So we're going to tell you, okay, just to be sure. And then you'll get like the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post. I don't care what their leaning is. They're going to have a story, and it's going to be like, we uncovered something, and then they're going to get a phone call saying that will undermine national security, or they'll get a national security lever, and story's gone. Then Assange drops it right on the internet, and we can all watch it.
Well, we have to understand the system that you're describing gets overused and abused many times, as even regular stories that don't have any implications, don't put anyone's life on the line, are actually censored because they make the United States look bad. That has happened a lot, and we have found out because of Chelsea Manning's drop that one of the major allegations that the mainstream media was labeling against her was that she put American soldiers at the court proceedings.
Lives at risk.
Yeah. That people were going to die because of these leaks. I was at the court proceedings where Chelsea Manning was at what was it? What's the specific military court called?
Leavenworth? Oh, I don't know.
There was a specific military procedure where she was being tried. I was there, and it came out that there was no one put at risk because of these leaks that were put out there, but she still was oddly punished by the Obama administration and then pardoned by the Obama administration.
Look at it this way.
But now Donald Trump hates her.
Look at it this way. You've got a plan, and then some dude comes out and tells everyone what your plan is. You're going to be really angry and annoyed. And that's it. And the issue with Assange, Manning, with Snowden,
Michael Flynn, with ISIS and Syria.
Absolutely. Yeah, is that if we need to make an example of you, Michael Flynn's a really good example because I didn't realize that until you brought it up, that Michael Flynn basically, what did he snitched on?
Exposed how Barack Obama was responsible for the rise of ISIS in the Middle East knowingly. He knew there was leaked documents that came out that showed exactly what was going to happen. It did. Radical fundamentalists were going to receive the money, the arms, the intelligence, the hardware, the trucks that were sent down there. This is why ISIS was riding around with Jim Bob's construction trucks from the United States, and everyone's like, "Wait, why do they have this?"
There's a phone number on it from Michigan.
Yes, they were running around with Humvees, U.S. military Humvees that they knew they were going to get in Iraq, and there's even leaked documents coming out how the U.S. military command knew that they were going to get control of all this hardware from the U.S. military, and they let it happen.
And this is why they thought, or they claimed that Flynn was compromised by Russia because Syria was allies with Russia, and all the pieces come together.
Exactly.
But he came out and ratted on him, and that they got to make an example because they don't want anybody else to do it. So listen, you could commit a major felony, right? And they'll say, okay, yeah, sure, we're gonna lock you up here and go through the system. But you slight the machine, and they are going to gut. And they're going to eviscerate you and leave you hanging to dry as the public watches. Because now, you know what we're hearing? A judge just said in the pardon in the pardon of Michael Flynn that perhaps Sullivan could order that the pardon is too broad and try to nullify it. How psychotic is this? That is a supreme power granted to the president, okay? A lot of people have complaints about the pardon power. It exists for a reason. I actually read a great essay on I can't remember exactly what the breakdown was, but they say there's a very serious and important reason why the president has the ability to just pardon people when it comes to federal crimes. But if the president does, so be it. That's at least the rules for now. If you don't like the rules, you change the rules later with legislation. The fact that they're saying that Sullivan, who was blocking the fact that the DOJ was trying to let Flynn go, like DOJ says, we're going to drop this, we don't want to do it anymore. And then you get this judge saying, no, you can't do that. Then Trump says, I unequivocally pardon. Now there's one judge going, I don't know, that's a little broad. Sullivan could say no to that. How? He can't say, who's not the president? The president. So it will. I don't think anything's come of it, but man, are these people nuts.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you this. The reason why it is absolutely important, in my opinion, that we get resolution on all of what's going on with the election irregularity is because we you know, I often say we're sitting on a powder keg. The fuse is coming and we're staring at it. That powder keg's about to go. January 6th is around the corner. January 20th is around the corner. And you got 74 million people saying, what is going on with this election? I don't trust it. More than that, probably. You got 30% of Democrats, according to a couple different polls, that think votes were stolen. So you've got people charged up and ready and angry. People are going to snap.
As we were locked down, denied sports, and are now being put back into lockdown, having all of our livelihoods destroyed in front of us. I mean, this is an absolute recipe for disaster. So many people are discontent. So many people are angry. A lot of them are just breaking stuff because they have nothing else to do. If you go to major Democratic cities, you could protest. You could riot.
Yep.
You could work. Nope. You
No
can't
church.
do that. You can't go to church. You can't have sporting events. You can't go to the clubs. You can't go to the restaurants. You can't do anything except riot.
It's simple. When Ryan Long was here, he's a comedian, super funny guy. He's Ryan Long comedy. It's really, really great stuff. You'll probably love it. He was saying that, you know, he's in New York. They couldn't go outside or do anything. The Black Lives Matter protest started and he was like, I want to go outside. And that was it. They got those massive numbers. You see that video in California of all the people in the street as a drone flies over. It's because people were desperate. Let me out into the sun, please. Any excuse. I'll say anything. And it worked.
Yep.
I will say anything.
And a lot of people are angry at the police for enforcing a lot of these decrees.
I call them oath breakers.
Yeah. A lot of people were justifiably pissed off because their sheriff, their local police officer locked them in and used the full might of the police state against them because they wanted to live.
Oath breakers.
Yes. And that's why people were legitimately angry at the police. And they're going to be angry again because the officers are still continuing to listen to those orders.
So this is why, one of the reasons why I voted for Trump. Clearly, I'm not the biggest Trump supporter in the world, but I think he's infinitely better than Joe Biden. I think he's done good on foreign policy. We had a big argument.
Well, he's conscious. He could talk.
Well, yeah, that's for sure. Joe Biden came. What did he say? He was like, you know, if we get an argument with Kamala, you know, like I said to Obama, I'll just say I contracted a disease and then resign.
Well,
it's like
he was saying
what?
That's what he would have done as the vice president.
He was saying he said that in a dispute with Kamala, just like he said with Obama. So what he said was, he would have done it with Obama, and he'll do it with Kamala.
I think he said he would have done it with Obama, and Kamala. He wants Kamala to do that with him.
No, he said
he would expect her to back off.
No, he would say.
He said what I would say to her, like I said to Obama.
I don't think he would resign if his vice president disagreed with him.
I could pull up the clip.
He literally
it sounded like it, but I think what he meant was, as VP, he would resign.
We're not playing that game where we get to translate for Joe Biden. That's what
what idiot would say if my VP disagrees with me, I'll feign illness and resign from the presidency?
The controversy.
I disagree. I'm only questioning his intention.
Can't believe it.
I know what he said.
Ian? Come on, man. It's Joe Biden.
What? No, I think he was making an allegory from what he would have done as VP to what his VP would do now.
We can look up the exact quote and look it up. But it should also be surprising to a lot of people that Joe Biden had this plan.
Biden says he would resign if a moral dispute with Harris arose.
In this quote, they're
from the street, certified by NewsGuard. No, you are.
Well, I disagree.
Like I told Barack, if I reach something where there's a fundamental disagreement we have based on moral principle, I'll develop some disease and say I have to resign. He said that when he was asked. That's
what he said what he would tell Barack, right?
Like I told Barack. Yeah. He was asked how he would respond to Kamala Harris. And he said, like I told Barack. What he said was he would have done it with Obama and he'll do it now with Harris.
Like he told Barack, the vice president would do it with Obama and the vice president would do it now.
You're literally making that up.
That was my interpretation.
It doesn't matter. You're making that up. He was asked, how do you resolve a dispute with Harris? And he said, you know, if you know, he said that a million times.
Yeah, if there was
if I'm in a dispute with Harris, like I told Barack, I'll develop a disease and say I have to resign. He told Anderson Cooper that he would do the same thing he would have done with Obama if Harris didn't have a dispute.
I'm not going to waste time arguing this with you
but
now.
I don't understand how you're arguing. It's a quote.
Another thing he said
We're
that's
arguing the
pretty
interpretation.
eye-opening is he also announced today that there's going to be 100 days of masks, 100 days of cover-up.
Listen, Luke, he was in the basement. He didn't know he didn't realize we were already wearing masks.
I know. That's the thing. According to the CDC data, most of Americans already wear masks. They haven't stopped wearing masks. And this was even confirmed by the New York Times. So him saying that everything's going to go back to normal, everything's going to be fine if people just wear a mask for the next 100 days is again, just another delusional, crazy thing.
Leave Joe alone, man. He was in the basement, okay? He didn't know what was going on.
Does he mean like in houses? Is that what is 100
between
days of
between
us?
bites in your own home, like California
Yes.
said?
Yes.
California's like, you got to wear a mask in your own home, and you lift your mask up, take bites, and put the mask back on.
That was tweeted by the official governor of California Twitter account as Gavin Newsom was literally at that restaurant eating with all of
with
his
the California
friends,
Board of
with
Health.
thousands of dollars, spending thousands of dollars
sorry.
at this restaurant.
Joe Biden said he would resign.
I'm starting to think. Remember what
He
they
probably
did with.
will. I mean, Kamala literally was saying, you know, this is going to be the great Kamala presidency.
Can we show this again?
Yes.
I'm
Yeah,
not.
I wanna
this is-
listen
this
to
is
it. Can we
not
listen
being-
to it?
This is not. Let's not be. Let's play. Let's see. Can we play this?
But all kidding aside,
The first lady to be told me she holds them for you.
yes, she does. But not with she and Kamala have become friends.
Yeah.
But all kidding aside, it's a matter of the thing. We are simpatico on our philosophy of government and simpatico on how we want to approach these issues that we're facing. And so I don't have, and when we disagree, it'll be just like, so far it's been just like when Barack and I did. It's in private. She'll say, I think we should do A, B, C, or D. And I'll say, I like A, don't like B and C. And let's go, okay. And like I told Barack, if I reach something where there's a fundamental disagreement we have based on a moral principle, I'll develop some disease and say I have to resign. We don't have that. We haven't, and we discussed at length our views on foreign policy, on domestic policy.
He was talking about what he would do, not what she
and what
should
he would
do.
expect her to do. I think is.
He didn't say that.
His expectation is that if the vice president has a deep philosophical disagreement with him, that
Well,
they would resign.
Bro, come on, man.
Dude,
he didn't say the words vice president.
Well, he didn't say I would resign this
Yes,
presidency. I mean, he wasn't that specific.
Like I told Barack, if I reach something where there's a fundamental disagreement where I have based on a moral principle, I'll develop a disease and say I have to resign.
Yeah, as the vice president. Like, that's what he would have told
You're
Barack
making
as
that
the
up.
vice
You're
president.
just literally making stuff up.
Well, he wasn't the president with Barack.
What does that have to do with anything?
He would expect the vice president to resign if it
Why
didn't.
is the president negotiating with the vice president on what they should or shouldn't be
They're
doing in
not.
the first place?
They're not.
He just said he was. He's going to have a private conversation about
Well,
what
I mean,
they agree
yeah.
on, and then if it come to a disagreement, like he said with Barack, he'll resign.
Right.
You're trying to defend the guy when he didn't say.
Dude,
what
I
he
have
said.
no defense of that idiot. First of all, I feel like what they did with Franklin Delano Roosevelt hiding his polio for years makes me think that they're going to hide this guy's illness as long as
That's
they
what
can.
they're doing with the foot, man. He took his booty off when he went on the interview, and
He's
Anderson was
not
like,
an
"Where's
idiot.
your
He's
booty?"
just old and losing his mind. I don't think he's an idiot. He's just falling apart.
He's the corporate establishment representative that will say anything that they give them to read. That's what he's been throughout his entire career.
Have you seen those big
and that's what he's
teleprompters where
gonna
the
be there
letters
now.
are really big?
Yes.
Oh my
I
God.
feel sorry for the man more than I do disdain.
Yeah.
Listen, Ian. Do you know that Nancy Pelosi put forth
Yeah.
the 25th Amendment provision creating a council to determine whether or not, because the 25th Amendment says, I think it's the 25th, right? Is that what it was? The one. It says that
one?
that Congress has the right to appoint a group
Yeah, it's
or whatever.
25th,
So what Nancy Pelosi was saying is, we'll have a panel that will evaluate the mental fitness of the president. And everyone's like, you're doing this to get rid of Trump. She goes, no, it's not for Trump. It's for our future president. Everyone's like, it's for Biden. We know it's for Biden. Listen, everybody was questioning why Joe Biden. He's 78. He's the oldest president ever. There's no way he can run for a second term. And now we have a video coming out where he says, if I get into a dispute, I'll say I have some disease and resign. And everyone's like, we know.
And in that-
we know.
And you see Kamala there like,
Yeah.
Yeah, she's shaking
and
her
then
head no.
okay, he's back on track. He's back on track.
It's
Good.
like she's like got this look like she's waiting for him to go.
She's smiling, thinking like, soon,
Yes.
soon. I will be. I tweeted, this is really funny. I tweeted when that story was breaking. It would kind of suck if the first female president was due to process and not vote. I stand by that opinion. I think it's true. I think if we want to have a female president, it's because the American people said this is the right person for the job, and not because somebody dies or is now infirm and needs to be removed.
Yeah, that's more like
but all these social justice leftists started like crapping all over me and attacking me. I'm like, you think it's better that we get by mandate the first female president? Like that's bad historical precedent.
And no one supported her in the primary. No one.
She got no vote.
She is an evil prosecutor.
Yes.
If you look at her police record, I mean, oh my goodness, it is deplorable. It is insane to see how many innocent people had their lives ruined because of Kamala Harris.
And she laughs
whether
about
it was smoking marijuana, whether it was crimes that they didn't commit, that she knew they didn't commit, she still put them in jail.
Threatening impoverished single mothers with prison time because their truant sons were missing.
Yes, didn't go to school because
Right.
if their children didn't show up to school,
Lock up the
parents
parent.
would literally face legal repercussions that they had to fight in court that led to devastating effects on family members.
I'm sorry.
in Los
Can we just
Angeles.
think about this for a second? So when I was a kid, we have curfew in Chicago. If you're under the age of 17, cops can literally just take you and bring you to your home, and then someone has to sign for you. And I thought that was always crazy that they have something like that. But think about it this way. Truancy laws are literally saying your children must be institutionalized as we see, otherwise you go to prison. When did we cross that line? That the state can, by mandate, institutionalize your children.
In California with Kamala Harris and her new
Yes,
propositions.
absolutely.
And now also today with a 10 p.m. lockdown of 8.5 million
Oh,
people,
man,
which
let's
is
do this.
happening
Let's
in
talk about
California right now.
Welcome
because
to-
somehow you won't get the COVID virus if it's 9:59.
Ladies and gentlemen, pull out your bingo cards and get ready to check off the box that says, welcome to the nightmare dystopia. 8.5 million people are being ordered to stay home ahead of a California statewide orders. 10,000 people hospitalized, 22,000 daily cases are recorded, 145 deaths in 24 hours. This is in the Bay Area, and it is just expected to escalate. But I must stop. There is some good news. California sheriffs have come out saying, F you.
Oh, good.
We're not going to do it. Ain't going to happen.
Love to hear it.
How do you break your oath to the Constitution? Surprisingly, there are a lot of cops who do.
increment
Some
at a
sheriffs, but not all the sheriffs.
Not all of
there
them.
still will be a lot of pointless, ignorant police officers that don't have a backbone, that don't have a soul, that will enforce these orders with the full might of the police state. And one thing we have to understand here, people changed their lifestyles. They lost their jobs. They lost their businesses. They lost their freedoms. Their kids can't go to school anymore. They eviscerated and destroyed the working class and any prosperity, any ability of freedom for people to have because of a lockdown. And now it pretty much didn't work. But they're telling us to lock down again.
Do you know what a quarantine is?
Quarantine is the closing in of sick people and preventing sick people from spreading.
So
out
what
to
do
the
you
general
call it
people.
when instead of doing that, they lock everyone in their
Martial
homes?
law? It's essentially martial law.
Now
what's
let's play a
happening right
game.
now. Yeah.
Michael Flynn recently tweeted out the We the People convention, calling on Donald Trump to invoke extreme wartime powers, essentially declaring a light martial law, having a new election. And we saw Lynn Wood, we saw Sidney Powell, we saw many Trump supporters echo this. And the collective screeching from the left, it's happening. There's memes going around. It's the political compass, right? And you've got the authoritarian left, the libertarian left, and the libertarian right, and they all have shocked and scared faces. And then you have this like really doofy looking guy with a MAGA hat saying, martial law good. And then in the middle it says Michael Flynn calls for martial law. And on the libertarian left side is an Antifa-looking guy with a bunch of guns saying, we told you so. And I think this is really, really funny because they have been enforcing martial law on this country for a year and you supported it. And now you're mad that people are saying, hey, Donald Trump needs to stop this and something must be done about it.
Yeah, and they
Welcome.
voted for it, and we're going to have a lot more of it with a Joe Biden presidency. And I'm still shocked how last year we literally went from storm Area 51, they can't stop us all, to right now, let's have Christmas and Thanksgiving together. They can't arrest us all when we were at our
Lock
family
us in
members.
our homes.
Yes.
Lock us in our
it's
homes.
It's absolutely insane. Area 51, the event was pretty fun, but that's a whole different subject. But
Ho, ho. Lock us in our homes, Gavin Newsom.
yeah.
Yes.
Terrible protest chant. I just made it up.
I don't like it.
We'll go with it.
I don't know, but we're seeing a lot of resistance from some sheriffs. We saw a significant protest in Staten Island. We're seeing slowly people kind of wake up and realize that it's kind of hypocritical to allow Black Friday but not Thanksgiving. And people, I think, I might be naive, but I think there's a larger kind of feeling of discontent, of anger and frustration at all these politicians who set up all these rules and don't follow them.
But listen. Conservatives aren't complaining about peaceful protests from Black Lives Matter in the sense that they're protesting. They're complaining about the hypocrisy of demanding lockdowns and then protesting. But there's nary a conservative who's saying, these people are going to get us all sick. They shouldn't be protesting. No, they're saying, you have a First Amendment right to protest. But how dare you say we should be locked down and you get to go outside? Meanwhile, on the left, they're saying, we're going to go celebrate and dance in the street for Joe Biden. And then in Staten Island, when the cops arrest this bar owner and a couple hundred just regular people, not Trump supporters, maybe some of them, but regular people in the community came out with flags protesting. I'm seeing all these lefties say, these people are going to kill us. I'll tell you what the problem is right now in this country. Those people who are saying this, they don't care about you. They don't care about the law or the rules or any kind of moral or ethical standard. It's we get power and you can go to hell. And that's what they're giving us. When I see regular people say, please, we're struggling and dying, we can't do this anymore, and they say, shut your mouth, get in your home, and drop to your knees, we're going to go party. That's a powder keg that is about to explode. It's only a matter of time.
I 100% agree. And
we went to the gun shop the other day.
Yeah.
And I was like, I will take that whole shelf of ammo and that whole
there
shelf of
wasn't
ammo.
much left.
And the guy was like, I understand.
Yeah. I kept telling my friends and family members in June,
it wasn't
buy
that
everything
much,
you can.
by the way.
Buy everything you can. I mean, I'm shocked at what you guys have here compared to New Hampshire. It's absolutely
gone.
Nothing. I'm
shocked.
Let's
Let's put this into context. So we went to a I don't want to give out details because I don't want to drag anybody. We went to a gun store. They don't have that much ammo. A lot of odd caliber bullets, things that I was like, do you even have guns for this stuff? And they're like, we don't.
Up 3 times, 4 times, even 10 times
and it was
as
like,
much as what I was paying for in June.
It was like 2 boxes per different ammo type, except for the 12 gauge stuff. That I was like, I went nuts and I was like,
well, that's still readily available because
right.
That's still something that people can get. But when it comes to 9mm 5.56, you're paying an arm and a leg.
Yeah, dude, it's nuts.
It's absolutely crazy. I mean, for 900 bullets of 5.56, I was paying a couple $100.
Now it's $1,000.
Now it's $1,000 for 900 bullets. And I'm like, and the thing is, it's not going back to normal soon. That's the thing. People think it's going to go. Everything's going to go back to normal. It's not.
I love how the guys were just like, yep. Like it's not total. It's totally normal. Like someone comes in and they're like, "There's not that much to buy." Because dude, it's no joke. I bring this up in earlier this year when I said I don't want any guns in my house, and then COVID happened, the pandemic stuff happened,
the stalker happened.
Yes.
I dealt with
the stalker was last
too.
year.
Oh yeah, I had a whole bunch of stalkers as well.
For sure. But like looking at the stores being picked clean, and like we had a Walmart only like a mile or so away, and I'm like, we're really close to this place, and there's no food. People are running in and seizing all the toilet paper and stuff. I'm like, we got to take care of ourselves. And I even had a cop advise me, and we were in a small suburb, so the police station wasn't that far away, and he was like, you need to answer your door with a shotgun when someone comes, So that got me thinking. But it wasn't until the riots went nuts and I heard the helicopters, I went out and bought a bunch of guns. But here's the thing, they had no ammo. I remember I went in and I was talking to the guy and I said, I need 45 auto, and he goes, 1 box. And I'm like, that's 50 rounds. He's like, all I can do. So I've been to 3 or 4 different shops. There's one shop where they said you get 1 of each box. And it's crazy too, because the 22, it's like 50. It's this little tiny box. I'm like, what am I going to do with this?
And you're lucky.
I know.
And you're lucky you got
That's
those.
why when we went to that one store, I was like, I will take it all. And they were like, no limit, sir. We understand.
Yes,
here's a box.
It was marked up pretty heavily, but
it was only a couple boxes.
But they're going to keep going up. And we have to understand here, this is something that a lot of people are finding very troublesome. I mean, even from like an investment point of view, if you bought bullets and firearms in June and July, you could
sell it. You'd be making
you could make a crap ton of money just on that initial investment. And some people legitimately are. But there's a lack of a lot of this stuff because people are buying it whenever they can because they know either 1, something major is going to happen. 2, they know that there's going to be an administration that's going to try to take it away from people.
Remember the story about the red flag laws when they started coming out, where someone could basically report you as being unwell, and the cops show up to your house and say, "We're seizing your guns." There was a story. I think it was Baltimore. Some guy gets the cops show up to his house. They says, who is it? They say, we're the police. He opens up and they say, we're here to take your guns. And he says, not a chance. Cops fight with him. Cops shoot and kill him.
Yep.
There are people who will absolutely say no to the police who try to violate the Constitution. Now, that's scary. I understand it for sure. What's scary about it is we are dangerously close when we know for a fact these states are violating the Constitution. Why? Because the Supreme Court's already ruled in states like Michigan and Pennsylvania, and then states like California are still doing it. Or when the Supreme Court sides with religious institutions under the First Amendment. Did you read, I think it was Gorsuch, his opinion? There's no version of reality where you can have tanning salons and liquor stores remain open, but people can't go to church. That was bold.
Yeah.
But they issue that. And then what does Cuomo say? So what? We'll do it again.
Yeah. And
what can you do about it?
One other thing that people have to realize here, when you look at the strictest, toughest, most unfair lockdowns that rob people of their livelihoods, they are mainly happening in democratic cities where people don't have the right to defend themselves and are not armed. You look at what happened in Canada and Australia, where there was recently gun legislation that limited people's ability to defend themselves. What happened? The Canadian government and Australian government are absolutely having a heyday with just making up whatever made up decrees, not even based off on the science, not even any logic, but they're locking people down in extreme ways, arresting people, meanwhile allowing Black Lives Matter protests
to
happen.
Check this out.
But
check this. The other day, when we had Destiny here, he said we need a 2-month lockdown. Everybody should get paid. And the issue was, we ended up coming back to it. And I said, didn't we already lock down? And he was like, not nationwide. But hold on. Europe, they locked down. They closed their borders. And it all came back. Why did it come back? Well, because we eased the restrictions. So you're saying that no matter what we do, COVID is here to stay? And there's nothing we can do about it? We can't live this way. We can't. It's physically impossible to stay this way unless they just want people to die. They want people to starve, become evicted, get depressed, commit suicide.
be dependent on government.
But listen. Even, yes, to an extent, being dependent on government, but at a certain point, there's no food on the shelves unless someone puts it there or makes it.
Exactly.
And if no one is working, there is nothing to be given to people.
Politics is a popularity contest. We got stupid people running the show,
as well as government mandates that literally slaughtered chickens, pigs, got rid of and thrown out a lot of vegetables and fruits that were available for everyone. But all of those, I mean, I was in touch with some farmers across the United States. They were ordered, destroy everything you have. The supply chain has been cut. This is the best thing you could do. It's absolutely insane. And now there's food shortages. And now we have to understand the effects of these lockdowns are not leading to more suicides like we just saw in Japan. In Japan, more people killed themselves than died from COVID-19. And around the world, especially in desolate places in third world countries, hunger is becoming more of a rapid epidemic. But we keep being told by these politicians, no, we're going to do another lockdown. It didn't work the first time, but it's going to work now. Oh, we're going to do more masks. They didn't really work, but we're going to do them more now. Oh, we're going to wait until the vaccine comes again. Everything the politicians have been saying about this have been absolutely wrong. And I think it's extremely dangerous coming forward with
the establishment.
Yes.
Everything the establishment said, because Trump said schools should remain open.
Yes.
And they said he was nuts. He wanted to kill your kids. Now we're
learning.
And
they said he was nuts when he tried to shut down travel from China as well. And they keep going back and forth. There's no consistency. There's no logic. And a lot of times they just lie to you through their teeth. They're telling you, just hold on a little bit longer. Everything's going to be fine. Just give us a few more weeks. Just give us 100 days of masks.
You want to know why?
Lockdown. The vaccines are coming. They're going to fix everything. Don't worry.
You want to know why? I can give you the perfect example of why I cannot stand the Democrats. Listen, today, there was a vote in the House on legalizing cannabis.
That's what I'm talking about.
And guess who voted for it?
Ron Paul.
No. Just which party? Which party was for it?
Democrats.
Democrats. That's right. Who was opposed to it?
Republicans. Boom, done.
Republicans, in my opinion, are just it's trash. Okay, Donald Trump is very different, and I think most Trump supporters recognize that many of these Republicans are just crony establishment. But hold on. At least at least they're doing very little, and they're kind of ineffectual. Well, you got something to say about Republicans doing something else?
I wanted to finish my point by specifically saying there's too many people profiting off of these lockdowns, off of these restrictions for them to end anytime soon. So we have to understand there's another factor here that we have to understand that when it comes to the billionaires, when it comes to the establishment, when it comes to the ruling class, they are getting way too many benefits from this lockdown for it to end.
Dude, the vaccine
They're fine.
company is going to make tons of money.
Pfizer is set to make a lot of money, but we also
Billions.
We also have to understand this is a company that literally just came out yesterday, and they said that, quote, this is the chairman of Pfizer. We're not sure if someone can transmit the virus
Right.
if they take the
Yep.
vaccine. And this
But
is
you know why
this
they're
is a
saying
company.
that?
I
Because
know
they want everyone to take it because, well, everybody might be vaccinated, right? You could still get sick.
again, this is
He's saying there's no herd immunity with the vaccine. That's what he's saying, which means everybody must get it.
Or he doesn't know if there is, yeah.
Which means everybody must get it.
Yeah.
So
Err
apparently,
on the safe
somebody
side.
Google this. Somebody super chatted saying one of the proposals going through right now is that the stimulus will only go to those who get vaccinated.
Whoa, what?
there are proposals by some Democrats saying that if you want to receive the new stimulus checks, there is some writings in some of the legislation. It hasn't passed, but it's being proposed and it's being talked about, and it wouldn't surprise me. And there will be a certificate that people will be getting after getting this vaccine, which was officially announced today as well. But we have to understand here, Pfizer, I think you're right. I think he's making that statement to make sure more people have this general idea that they need this thing. But when it comes to Pfizer, one, they're not facing any liability surrounding this, but this is a company that paid out close to $5 billion since 2000 in damages and fines to individuals, to organizations,
time.
and to governments for corruption. This time, they can't do that.
And
$5 billion.
listen. I know a lot of people want to make it about the vaccine, but this is about transfer of wealth.
Yeah.
What they want is we want carte blanche for the government to transfer taxpayer dollars to us with zero liability, and that's what they are getting. Not just them, but these other companies too. But listen.
And then I just want to go off on a little tangent here, because this is going to be the largest vaccine program that the United States has ever had and has ever dealt with. And I think it's also important to look back in history, especially in American history, at the latest vaccine program that was the largest before this one, and it was the 1976 swine flu, the H1N1 vaccine that 25% of Americans got in a 10-month span. This was because one U.S. soldier at Fort Dix in New Jersey came down with the H1N1 swine flu, and the government then decided to have a full-scale response. Everyone's going to get a vaccine. We're going to fast-track it. We're going to move forward. We're going to make sure that no one gets this H1N1 that we found at Fort Dix, New Jersey, with this one U.S. soldier dying. What happened with this vaccine program? It was very unnecessary because...
What year was it?
1976. Because the virus, H1N1, never left Fort Dix. No one else was affected by this, but they still vaccinated 25% of Americans in a 10-month span, and the vaccine was found to have links with Guillain-Barré syndrome, which has injured a large...
Guillain-Barré?
Yes,
Yeah.
which is, sorry, I'm saying that wrong, has injured a large number of individuals. All of it totally unnecessary, totally made up because a politician said he's going to help everyone, said he's going to fix everything.
We got the official source. We got the
Yeah,
official
go right
source.
ahead.
I've got Discover Magazine, Certified NewsGuard, and there's a quote. The swine flu program was marred by a series of logistical problems ranging from the production of the wrong vaccine strain to a confrontation over liability protection to a temporal connection of the vaccine and a cluster of deaths among the elderly population in Pittsburgh. Sound familiar?
Yes, exactly.
The most damning charge against the vaccination program was that the shots were correlated with an increase in the number of patients diagnosed with an obscure neurological disease known as Guillain-Barré syndrome. Is that how you pronounce it? Guillain-Barré. There you go. You
Yep.
see, he can't pronounce it, neither can I. So, look.
This was the largest vaccine program in the United States, and now we're about to go through another one. I'm not saying that there's any
It is different
correlation or any
circumstance.
mixes, extremely different circumstances, but it's important to understand here that there is history with the United States doing
Okay.
human
Well,
experiments.
let me play devil's advocate.
Go ahead, yes, of course.
Is it fair to say that I think we've made substantive developments in the 44 years since it was
I hope so.
1976, right?
There have been many important developments with Big Pharma that has helped a lot of people. There's no denying that. But when it comes to holding this industry accountable, I think there needs to be a lot more oversight, a lot more scrutiny, and a little bit more skepticism, because there isn't. Now, is it fair
Listen,
to label
Luke,
it all
Luke.
bad? No.
No.
But
I
think it's
got to
fair
stop you.
Yeah.
It's all good.
I would.
I'm going to show you an
question that.
article
Go ahead.
from Market Watch. Wall Street and finance workers could get COVID vaccines before most Americans.
Yes.
That doesn't prove anything. Again,
No.
Wait, go again.
If you think there's some risk here, don't worry. They're giving it to Wall Street financiers first.
I say give it to the government officials first, and I think that would solve all of our problems.
Wait.
Look, I really do mean it
Wait.
when I say I'm not.
Obama, Bush, and some other person are lined up to get the vaccine
It's
when
Clinton.
it first
So
comes out.
Clinton,
Bill
Bush,
Clinton, the guy who said he didn't have relations with that woman, Barack Obama, who drank the water from Flint,
Yes.
all right, and the guy who told us that
started
there was
war for no
weapons of
reason.
mass
Yes.
destruction are now going to tell me that they're taking this shot that we don't know what it
Hey,
is.
I hope
that
it
it's
doesn't work.
Again, one thing that we have to understand here is, again, we can't just paint everything black and white. We can't just say everything's good and bad. There is important middle ground. There is gray zones that we need to look into, that we need to consider. But I do truly believe that we are aware of all the positive sides, but not of the negative sides. And people need to be aware. The United States has a long history of going after human beings that didn't know what was happening and experimenting with them with medical procedures. I could list off a few
yes,
I have here,
please
and I want
do.
to.
But okay, so
Tuskegee
listen.
experiment?
Tuskegee for
Wait,
sure.
can I get into this list? I mean, we have the CIA LSD experiments that led to people dying. That was covered
Tuskegee.
up. The Tuskegee experiments
Yep.
that happened to hundreds of individuals, and as they were dying, as they became blind, as they became insane because of syphilis that was given to them by a U.S. government grant, they decided not to treat it. And this was all funded by U.S. taxpayers. In
Listen.
1953 through 1954 and 1963 to 1965, St. Louis was literally sprayed with radioactive particles in order to conduct a military test. Agent Orange in Vietnam, depleted uranium in Iraq, the 1948 Operation Sea Spray, Project
DDT.
112. Again, I could keep going on and on and
Keep
on.
going.
DDT.
Yeah,
There are
DDT.
so many
Yeah.
instances where the U.S. government, literally, unsuspecting citizens just said, we're just going to test you with all this different stuff. There's going to be a lot of negative consequences, but we're going to cover it up.
My mom would
So
tell me this.
there's a philosophical question here.
Go ahead.
It's deontological versus utilitarian. Do you think the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few?
Depends on the situation.
That's very hard to say. That's a very
That's the
blanket,
famous
generalized statement.
Spock quote from, was it Star Trek 2, I think it was? I don't know. Maybe
If the many are destroying everything, then no.
So the needs of the right. So that's exactly the mentality.
Not when
of-
it comes to
But if the
experimenting
many are saving the situation, then
on
yes.
unsuspecting American citizens and testing them with DDT and syphilis. No. In
No.
that instance,
Listen,
that's
not what
that
I'm
doesn't
saying.
benefit
I'm saying
anyone.
right now. Let's say that there is a an increase in certain syndromes, like how do you pronounce it again? Guillain-Barré.
Just say it really quickly so no one knows.
Guillain-Barré.
Yeah, it's great.
You
Yeah.
mispronounced it. Guillain-Barré syndrome.
So one of the arguments when there was that big, remember that movie Vaxxed came out or whatever?
Yes, by
So
Del
I actually went to the CDC and had a big conversation with a lot of people there, and they were very much like, "This is ridiculous." And one of the things that I said was, they were like, "I want you to think about something. Let's say that 1 in 300,000 people do develop a very severe negative symptom. Now, when they do, it's not always like permanent paralysis. It could just be a minor thing, right? If it does. Is it worth saving the lives of 3 million people if it means that 30 will end up getting some kind of negative impact? There's like the questions we have to ask are very difficult.
Yes, of course.
Because we recognize that we want to maximize good. We want to do the right by most people, but it means when you're looking at people like numbers, you'll see that there are going to be people who suffer. But what do? Help no one?
No, you're honest. You don't lie to people.
Oh,
you
for
tell
sure.
them the risks that are involved
Tell
with
them what
getting
you're
this
doing.
experimental vaccine that history and medical science has never seen before. You tell people what they're getting themselves into. And I was going to ask you, the same CDC that's tied in with special interests, the same CDC that keeps changing their official point of view and stance on the COVID virus
There's a balance. There's a balance.
I mean,
there is. Look,
there is a balance, but we
listen.
deserve a lot more truth. We deserve a lot more accountability. We
Listen.
deserve a lot more information, and we're not getting it. We're getting lies by government officials who think they're better and more important and could tell us and lecture us that we don't need masks when they want to when they want to know for themselves.
There are two kinds of people right now.
Amen.
Yeah.
There are two kinds of people. One that says, I trust the government wholeheartedly no matter what. That's insane.
Yeah.
And the other that say, I never trust the government at all. But in between is the real gradient of people who say, there are certain things I trust and certain things I don't. Certainly people would say, I trust the troops, right?
It depends on what.
There
if
absolutely
you're in
are
Afghanistan
people-
and if you're
No, I'm
Afghani,
talking about American
I
citizens.
wouldn't-
Do you trust the government, Luke?
Hell no.
But would you trust a serviceman who said?
It depends. I don't know him.
If there was a guy and you pull up in your car and he stops you and says, "There's a raging wildfire ahead. Please don't go down that way. We're trying to get it secure. We're saving lives." Would you trust him?
Depends on the circumstance and situation. I would actually
You see
try to
smoke.
fact check it
There's
myself.
smoke coming up, and they said, "Stop! If you go there, you'll die. We can't let you do this."
Am I escaping other government agents that
No.
want to throw me into
The
FEMA
point
camps?
is, listen. Throw you into FEMA
Is he
camps.
wearing a badge?
What I'm saying is, at the end of the day, everybody chooses who and what they trust.
Of course.
And there are some people that say to all those things, yes, they happened because the government of the United States has done horrifying things, and many on the left protest a lot of these things. But to
Not
them,
anymore.
Protesting.
Barely.
Right, it goes back and
Barely.
forth.
Yeah.
Well,
I never learned about it in school
selective
or anything.
protest.
I had to
no
find out
no
on
one
my own.
talks about how the U.S. government treats its citizens like just gerbils that they could do whatever they want with. Another issue to really consider and to really talk about is gain of function data. When we're looking at the studies that happen with scientists and the military coming together saying, let's weaponize this virus as much as we can. Let's see how deadly we can make it for absolutely no reason at all. Let's finance this research. Let's make sure it happens in Wuhan. Let's make sure we study this crazy pathogen and let's bring them all together. Let's be mad scientists. Let's create a virus that could destroy the world. Why? Why are we doing this? Why is this? This
because
is gain of
why did-
function
why-
data
why did they
studies
make
that are
nuclear
happening
weapons?
There have been no scientific breakthroughs that have actually worked and have actually helped, whether it comes to science or modern medicine, through gain of function
So
studies.
gain of function is testing like the danger of something.
It's making it as dangerous as possible for potential weaponized purposes.
Yes.
There have been no scientific findings that have actually helped the scientific community. It's literally playing with God. That's what the government
Playing with God?
Playing God. Sorry, playing God, and thinking that you could create something that could essentially wipe us all out. For what reason?
for war.
Exactly.
To
nuclear
defend
weapons.
against it? Like, how do you defend
And
it?
at
Mutually
that
assured
point, I
destruction.
would argue that the government's a little bit too big and powerful, and I think we should step it back a little bit.
Are you
And-
are you going to ignore China?
Of course, I'm not going to ignore
So
China.
this-
I've been
this is-
talking about China for a very long
Yes,
time.
yes. Listen,
And
You
their
have-
specific
this
rise.
is the very serious and inherent problem with coming up and pulling out all of the worst possible things the United States has done. Because if you pulled up a list of, say, all the worst possible things China has done, you'd be like, wow, I really trust the American
This
government
gain
way
of
more
function
than...
studies have been done in participation
Yes, I get
with
that.
the United States
Yes.
and China in Wuhan.
And China was smuggling in viruses, and they got caught by the State Department.
Yes.
And Bill Barr, Mike Pompeo, they've been talking about this.
Yes.
There have been many arrests. The point is, look, man, like I said, there's two kinds of people. Some people will look at everything the United States has ever done and say, don't trust the government. And they don't have a view out. Many of these people don't have a view outside of the United States and realize that there are other way
course.
more worse things. The point is, what I'm saying is, you've got to find reasonable balance. You don't want to blindly trust anybody. You don't want to blindly trust the government. Like the shirt you said yesterday, if you trust the government, you haven't learned. You learned from history. And they say those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. At the same time, what if what we're experiencing is the other conspiracy, that China was the one who manufactured something like this, and then the U.S. is desperately trying to defend us, and then you're actively opposing that?
Well, that would
The point
be
is,
a very convenient
pick-
line.
No, it's not convenient. It's you don't know. We don't know.
Exactly, because they're not honest, and they're not transparent, and they're not accountable.
This is why I say the best thing you can do is, first, I think everything they're doing right now, I find what the government is doing with the lockdowns completely wrong.
Yeah.
In terms of should we social distance, yes, I don't have a big problem with that.
We could deal with this in a practical way that deals with the elderly, that deals with
And
people who
and-
are
and-
immune
and-
compromised.
and making a vaccine.
I
and
don't
getting it out
high-five
to-
Tim
listen,
anymore.
Listen.
well, it's not even
no,
that.
no more high fives. That's the worst. Listen. They're not coming out and giving you the vaccine. You can't actually get
We
it.
don't know that yet.
No, we do
We see
know.
what's happening in
They've-
Canada. You see what you see in the chief medical officer in Ontario just announced that if someone refuses to take the vaccine, the COVID-19 vaccine, they won't have freedom to move around. That's
What I'm
announced
saying
today
is-
by an official government
Yes.
that has disarmed their
I
public.
am not a fan of mandated medication by anybody. I am not a fan of all the massive corporations just going along with this.
And if you think
But, dude,
Democrats won't force it on you, if you think Como and other crazy individuals that are
Which
already
is
robbing
why-
you blind won't do it on you, it's a little bit naive. Let me be honest here.
you think the government can actually pass a law?
The government is already in an insane level where they are telling people when they could leave their house. The government is already telling people that they can't drive their car by themselves.
That's an issue of
They're
the
telling
people.
their people that they can't even have a paddle board in the middle of the ocean by themselves. That's what the government is enforcing right now.
And the police who are breaking their oath of the Constitution.
Yes, but that's because of politicians telling them to do so. And we already reached the insane level. We already reached a crazy level. And if you think it's going to subside from here with all the power that was granted to these psychopaths, mostly psychopaths, I mean, it's not going to happen. When you give someone power, they love it. They want more of it.
All of this comes down to is that we have a growing escalation between China, Chinese infiltration, the Democrats who are clearly breaking their own rules and don't even believe their own rules, the World Economic Forum, and this election. And this is the point I'm making about the explosive powder keg we are sitting on. Because you can talk about all this stuff, and you know why it's so frustrating? You have no answer to any of this.
I do.
No, what's your answer?
Make memes.
Start
your own farm.
That won't change anything. When you come out and say,
buy local.
When you come out and say no to the U.S. government and then open the door to China.
Depends. No, you don't have to open the door to China. You have to be aware of both of these issues. You have to be aware of China on the geopolitical world stage and how they want to be the predominant world power. That is a big threat. I have acknowledged it. We have talked about it extensively. I 100% agree.
So what do you do here in the United States to deal with that?
No, you've been living this. What have you been
what do you
doing
do right now?
Yes.
What do you do right now to deal with that?
You become self-sufficient, right? As I have.
Yes,
you learn
absolutely.
how to farm. You learn how to defend yourself. You learn how to use firearms, which I've been doing at extreme levels this entire year. You learn how to defend yourself and to live outside of any government control, any government influence.
How will that allow a cohesive strategic response to what we're seeing from China?
Well, we're not going to have a cohesive response right now with the Biden presidency that's giving China what they want.
I completely agree. I believe Biden is the capitulation to China. I think what the Democrats are doing is detestable because they're clearly not following their own lockdown rules. So the issue is, 100%. How do we actually deal with it when instead, if listen, there's no good answer other than the keg is going to explode, and everybody has a different opinion on what they think must be done.
Okay,
so right now you've got people.
What do you think must be done?
I agree with you on the self-sufficiency part. Buying the ammo, learning how to take care of yourself, being responsible for yourself, and I've often felt that way for most part of my life. Right now we are entering a period where I've repeatedly said, and quoting a ton of other people, we are either off the cliff in terms of polarization. The CEO of Axios said the United States is decoupling. It is to the point where you bring the stuff up with the vaccine. First and foremost, you can mention swine flu stuff. I can pull this up. I totally recognize all of this, but I think most people are going to be completely fine because they're rolling it out through the elderly, first the people who have gotten the placebos, then the medical workers, then the most vulnerable people who are at risk of dying either way.
Yes, but we have to understand there's another conundrum here that a lot of people aren't realizing. What's happening in China? China right now is being totally fine, unaffected by this. So is Africa.
All the news we're getting out of China is from the Chinese government. So
well, at the same time, we're getting images of thousands of people without a mask inside of one pole having a party.
We got footage of the Uyghur Muslim camps. But we get footage out of China.
But what happened? What's going on in Africa? Africa is not being as devastated by this sickness as the rest of the world. There's something that absolutely just doesn't make sense.
That's not necessarily
healthy,
true,
man. They eat healthy. They're not sugar indoctrinated like
this. That's not necessarily true. No one is going there and tracking any of this. There's no great big hospitals writing all the numbers down. Now, I did a segment on the Johns Hopkins University newsletter that said this reporter, her name is Dr. I believe Briand, that when she looked at the year-over-year data, she doesn't see a major spike, and said she believed that heart disease deaths were down and COVID deaths were up, leading to what she believed was an over-exaggeration. But still, a lot of people will look. The reason why this is so frustrating is that everybody makes the leap of assumption. They say, if we're not hearing about in Africa, that's it. And then there's no consideration as to why that might be. So people are saying they deleted this letter. That proves they're censoring it and hiding it. We're not getting data out of Africa. That proves it's not real. Or China. Or like you mentioned, China could be lying. They could be welding people's doors shut and pretending like nothing's going on. Or it could be that the Democrats are overreacting, refuse to accept responsibility, and are exploiting this for political gain. They wanted an excuse for no excuse mail-in voting. They got it. There's 1,000,001 reasons. It is so difficult to break down. First and foremost, the most important thing you can do is be self-sufficient, rely on yourself, take care of yourself, and do simple things to keep yourself safe that are within certain reasonable boundaries. Social distancing, wearing a mask is totally reasonable. Like nationwide lockdowns and statewide stay-home orders, completely unreasonable, destroying everything.
I think it's legitimate to start the conversation and ask those questions and to see, wait, what's going on in Africa? What's going on in China? Because we are seeing a very unorthodox situation where I think we should question everything, where I think we should always be asking accountability. But asking accountability from our government is not the same as letting China win. You know, we're not letting China win by holding our government accountable or to a higher standard. America wins when America is strong, honest, and has its people in the know of exactly what's going on, because when the people know what's going on, we're able to prepare and we're able to make moves in our lives that makes us safe in the future rather than completely unsafe, completely unprepared. And I was going to family-friendly show here. I'm not going to say the
a well-informed population as a decentralized network will compute correct answers more accurate than a single individual who thinks they're smarter.
And we're not informed.
That's
there's a
the
lot
media.
of lies. There's a lot of bull crap. No, it's also large elements of the government. It's also large elements of the education system. It's also large elements of the entertainment system.
The establishment.
And the distraction, bread and circus system that we have to deal with. And I think criticizing it is essential to making it better, not making China win in some kind of circumstance or way. But I think us standing up, holding our government accountable and saying, you did this, this, and this, make this right, fix this, tell us the truth right now, will lead us towards a path towards a success rather than capitulation towards China.
And what would satisfy you with the Pfizer vaccine?
Let's release all the data right now about the trials. We're not getting any information regarding the troubles that some individuals are having. There's a lot of data that's absolutely being hidden from the general public about what happened during these studies, the exact data, the numbers, the details. I want to know all of it, and I think we should know all of it, exactly what's happening. But we're being told complications. There's some complications with some people. What is a complication? I want liability for some of these companies. I want to make sure that there's some way, if they egregiously go overboard and abuse their power like they have before, that there is some kind of system where there could be some retribution for a horrible act. Now, I'm saying they still need legal protection. They still need to be protected in a way, because if they face too much liability, they won't be able to do anything. But there's a middle ground towards being egregious, towards hurting people, and knowing you're going to hurt people.
All right.
There's a middle ground
question.
here. Go ahead.
Should people get the vaccine?
Again, everyone has their own life, and they should educate themselves about this issue and make their own decision for themselves. I'm not in a place to tell people what to do. I wouldn't be telling people what to do. I would tell people to do their research, do their homework, and when the data comes out, and hopefully we find out exactly what's happening during these trials, which we're not right now, then I think we can make a better decision. But until that happens,
tell me the good things about. Tell me some good news about the vaccine.
I don't know. I mean, they're talking about how this is a first of its kind that has never existed, that will essentially trick your body into thinking that this has. And if let's play devil's advocate here. If this is an incredible medical breakthrough, if this is something that helps people, I will be the first one to say after the data comes out that this is something that's good. But
so right now, there's
a possibility. There's a possibility for either way.
Yes, tons of public information saying it's good, very little saying it's bad.
Tons of
You've chosen the negative side of things.
No, I've chosen to look at history as an example of what could potentially happen, and I've chosen to understand that either outcome could happen, and I'm telling people, do the research before making that very important decision for yourself.
What do you research? What do you read?
What do you mean?
Like to figure out.
I feel like I'm being interrogated right now.
You are.
Because I'll tell you this.
Where's the Bible?
Because
Am I putting my hand on the Bible?
Hold up on your phone.
Because the issue I see is,
yes,
you can tell me every negative thing in the world, but you can't tell me anything that's positive. You can't.
I just told you in this podcast. I told you that there have been medical breakthroughs by Big Pharma that have had a substantial, amazing effect on individuals dealing with sicknesses that they never. No. I mentioned both. No, I mentioned both. I mentioned that there have been amazing, incredible findings by Big Pharma that would have never happened if it wasn't for them, that have helped a large number of people. Have there been also abuses with the opioid epidemic? Hell yes. But the only way to prevent a lot of the pain... So
what could someone research to make sure they're making the right choice?
That's a very good question. I would look at the first official version of events that the government says. Let's see what they say. Let's see what Pfizer says. Let's see the claims that they're making here. Now let's test it on the backdrop of people who criticize them, people who are the most vocal about it. And then you have two sets of data. And then you're going to make up your mind whether you like this one or that one based off experience, based off time, based off events that unfold.
I had someone email me telling me that there's a secret war going on in Frankfurt over security servers, Dominion voting machines. And when they do research, that's what they find.
Well, exactly.
The problem is people choose who and what they trust.
Exactly. There's no denying that. I'm not denying that.
So ultimately what it comes down to is talk to your doctor. And if you don't trust your doctor, well, then you got to find a new doctor.
My ultimate question is to use reason, logic, and multiple sources, multiple doctors.
Have you ever gotten a vaccine?
MMR?
I'm not sure, because when I came to this country as an immigrant, I'm not sure if I got vaccinated or not. I think I did.
Listen.
But I got tested for my vaccines. I had my blood drawn, and they said that I have no kind of vaccines in me.
I understand.
I don't remember. I was a little kid.
The concerns over the speed at which the vaccine is being put out are shared by Democrats. Like I mentioned before, it's, I think it was like Biden, Kamala, and Cuomo were all like, I'm not going to trust this thing. I'm going to wait a little while. And then there was a bunch of stories that came out through like CNN saying when polls come out, most people, like around a little bit less than half, say they're willing to wait.
40% of medical professionals are saying that they're going to wait as well.
Right.
And I think
I'm bringing that
that's a logical thing to do.
To be fair.
Yep.
The other issue I have is I received, when I mentioned this before, when I traveled, like 5 vaccines in one day. And as far as I can tell, maybe something happened. I don't know. Maybe it made me really smart and successful with YouTube. I have no idea.
Spider-Man
I seem
stuff.
to be fine, healthy, strapping young lad. I
sure
feel
do,
great.
man.
Feel great. Life's good. And the issue is recognizing the speed at which this one's being brought out and the bipartisan concerns over the rate at which it was produced. That's a normal thing people have. Is like, should I not have trusted going to the doctor the last time when the doctor says this is what we're going to do? Trust me.
No one said that.
No
one said that.
What do you mean? There's a lot of people who say that.
Yes,
there's tons of there's a whole movement of people
crazy
saying
stuff.
Right.
Of course. But even if you look at vaxxed, their position wasn't all vaccines are bad. It was some of them are rushed. Some of them should be done at a longer interval. Some of them should wait, especially if babies are receiving them. And it was acknowledged that some vaccines are actually good for you. I don't know if you watch Vax, but there was an element of that I think is important to look at and to examine yourself as an individual.
What I've learned about the older vaccines, not this one, which is an RNA vaccine. Apparently, they don't put the virus in it. They give you something new, so research RNA vaccines and find out. But the old vaccines, what they do is they'd take blood and then they'd filter the virus into the blood, but they could only make the filter so small because they had to let the virus through. So other things that were the same size as the virus or smaller would get through the filter. And sometimes you get tainted vaccines as a result.
So you're saying this improvement could help keep out contaminants and things like that?
Maybe.
I'm not saying, I want to shill for Pfizer.
No,
what I think about this is, my immediate personal bias and assumption is that it's not a great breakthrough. It's them pulling out the old vaccine and being like, we could easily crank something out for a coronavirus. We're going to make so much money off these dumb people. The governments are going to transfer all their wealth right into our pockets.
If you were told to take it now, would you take it now?
The vaccine?
Yes.
I already said no.
Okay. Are you okay with Pfizer settling out $5 billion since 2000 against damages and fines?
Am I okay with that?
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Are you okay with them not having any liability?
What's the revenue cap for Pfizer?
I don't know. I have to look it up. Are you okay with them having no liability?
No, I'm not.
This? Okay, good. All right, so we're on the same page.
In order to talk about the $5 billion in settlements for Pfizer, first of all, I think big pharmaceutical companies are mostly detestable in many different ways. But the market cap could simply be settlements based on people making claims, and it's a nuisance fee. And when you add that up to the fact that they're extremely massive, is what you get. But I think they're, for the most part, trash.
Yeah.
And along with many of these other big companies, I think they're like look, the issue I have is, for one, I share the concerns of many of these other Democrats who have come out and said, they're going to wait a little bit. But I've also looked at the news where they're like, guess what? You can't get it. Okay. I don't like private mandate where they're like, you can't come in unless you do, especially when they're saying that younger people aren't even going to have access to it anyway. So they're going to go through this big list of people before anyone my age or any of us are allowed to even get it because they're prioritizing. They're giving it to the UK before they give it to us. So it's not an issue of would I take it now? It's, I guess I'll just wait and see how things play out, I guess. But I don't take the flu shot either. I'm young. It's not a big issue. They advise you to do it, but people don't do it. All right. I don't like these big corporations. And the thing I hate the most about it is that the government gives no bid contracts and guarantees billions of our dollars to them. and then for one, cuts their liability.
Yeah.
So they're going to get free cash out of our pockets. It is the largest transfer of wealth. The way I put it is, there's only so much I can do, man.
Yeah.
I can't listen. I can't read anybody's minds. I have to trust who I trust. And when I was traveling the world and I had to go to the doctor, they said, you can get the vaccines or just say no. And I'm like, I have to trust my doctor. It's the best I can do. When I broke my hand, he fixed it. When I had to go to the hospital for a kidney stone, man, they stitched me right up. And when they said, we want to make sure you don't get yellow fever, we're going to give you the shot, I said, all right, let's do it. So when it comes to this stuff, in much the same way, it's a large, massive multinational corporation, that produces this stuff. I'm not a fan of them. I have concerns about them. But what am I supposed to do? It's frustrating to me when it's like people screaming from both sides about some position you have to take and you can't actually know. And the best thing you can do is just trust your doctor.
Demand, petition, bring up these issues, have a conversation about it. I mean, we could lose hope on everything. I choose not to. I do think that the will of the people absolutely matters, because if it didn't, they wouldn't need all the propaganda. There's still an extensive amount of propaganda used against the people because all hope isn't lost yet.
This 1976 swine flu thing.
Yes.
The worst thing about it was the correlation between
this and the Guillain-Barré syndrome.
How do you pronounce it?
Guillain-Barré.
Guillain-Barré.
Just say it really quickly, and then
Is that like Guillain Maxwell?
So
Similar,
that's what DiscoverMagazine.com said, this correlation. But is there right now this do you know what thalidomide is?
No, go ahead.
Do you know what thalidomide was?
Children of thalidomide. That was in We Didn't Start the Fire.
Yes, that's right.
It
when
was
their arms were like this.
Oh,
it was a
gosh.
drug.
There are issues that come with medication all the time. And so it's worrying. It's not worrying. It's frustrating when people just highlight only the worst possible things of something. And it's a challenge, because if we have some kind of medication that's going to save lives, and there is a fraction of a percentage that will have severe, dangerous side effects, and then you tell all of these people, and then everyone just says, I'm not going to do it, and then people end up dying, you have to make sure that the disease is not worse than the cure, and the cure is not worse than the disease. Solving for that is extremely difficult. It's ridiculously difficult.
But the government's cure towards coronavirus is the lockdowns, and
that's the Democrats.
And many people
with
argue,
their political agenda.
Well, it depends. It depends on what state we're exactly looking at. But mainly Democrats, you're right. But when we look at some of the statistics, the suicides, the depression, the job losses, the diseases, some people say that the supposed cure towards this is going to hurt a lot more people.
It's
also,
absolutely
this is
true.
not contentious enough. We need to talk about Jeffrey Epstein.
No. Vaccines have a long history of being absolutely incredible and amazing, and eradicating diseases and saving humans from torturous demise. Lockdowns have a history of breaking everything and ruining everybody's lives and not solving the problem in the least bit.
Exactly.
So when I look at a vaccine, I'm like, I don't like the liability protections. I don't like the guaranteed no bid contract kind of things. But vaccines, for the most part, I would say overwhelmingly effective, helpful. And what more can any of us do? The lockdowns don't work. They don't work. We've got half the country that are freaking out and crying in their homes, refusing to participate.
We could do a lot. We could have a whole health initiative where people actually have a real discussion about diet, about health, about exercise, about vitamin D, about zinc, about taking care of yourself and being the strongest version of yourself that you could be. But we don't hear any of that, because that takes away money from Big Pharma that doesn't benefit from it.
We're hearing it now, Luke. Preach.
It's not just taking money away from Big Pharma. It is body positivity. Right? There was a woman, an influencer, who lost a bunch of weight, was smiling.
And that's insane.
They attacked her
and
for
that
it.
stuff is absolutely crazy. And some people say it should be mental illness because it's leading to people getting hurt and people are glorifying it. And that's absolutely crazy.
Here's what I was trying to talk about from the get-go.
This happened.
Before, when I said the reason why I don't like the Democrats is they're locking everything down. People are suffering. We're having these debates over why the government is guaranteeing these liability protections as well as all this money from our pockets. Amazon is getting all this money. And I simply say to the Democrats, why are you doing it? And you know what the response is? The response is, Biden seeks to ease concerns about cabinet diversity. Welcome to the modern era.
Yeah.
What are they concerned about? What was Joe Biden answering questions
and
about?
Who's yellow? Are you kidding me?
Joe Biden was asked at the press conference not about the economy. Okay, he was asked a lot about a lot of stuff, but why is it that there is? This is the issue. This is one of the big issues.
Dude, those
of our
people
day.
aren't our leaders. Our leaders exist in other realms than politics. What's that? Lady?
I actually have something contentious to say about this, because we're talking about them talking about the diversity of Joe Biden's cabinet, but we're not talking about them legalizing marijuana. And I also feel like that is a huge bread and circuses distraction from the real issues that we're actually facing. Why right now? I don't think it's good timing. I just don't agree with the timing at all.
There are
Like, it's
people.
crazy.
There are people in this country who are more concerned with the color of the individuals, the race of the individuals, who are standing next to Joe Biden.
It's
And those are
just
those are the questions that
or
they
what
want
they
to
have
ask.
between their legs, or what they
Right.
decide to put inside of
I was thinking
themselves.
today
Like,
about
it's-
physical health, about kind of what you're talking about, and like, why won't Biden come out and tell people to cut sugar out of their diet? Like, is it too hard for people? Is it he
Well,
just doesn't
we also
want
have to understand modern science has been used by many special interests to push certain agendas, just like the sugar industry going against fats, just like the big tobacco industry financing a lot of doctors. There's a long
Or
history
oil,
of
climate
not
change.
just there's a new meme going around showing that doctors should have their medical jackets covered with all the big pharma
You mean
agencies
scientists?
sponsoring them.
Oh, no, doctors, right,
just
right.
like politicians have, their logos of the corporations that support them on their suits. So I do think there's also that element that needs to be also recognized, that there have been scientists that have been bought out by the special interests and said absurd things like cigarettes are good for you, that have absolutely been proven wrong.
Everything's broken.
Yeah, and it deserves the highest amount of criticism if we're going to move forward in some way
I got
towards
it.
fixing it.
I think, for one, I was listening to a video from Jordan Peterson recently. PragerU posted it. It was someone asking about climate change and effective leaders, and Jordan said, "Clean your room, bucko." That's a simple, paraphrasing of what he said was. But what he actually said was, he said something to the effect of, I would be skeptical of somebody who was trying to clean the world when they have not put their
Before
own
they
home,
clean their room.
before
Yeah.
they've taken care of their own personal affairs.
Right.
And he said, so what we need is for people to become responsible, self-sufficient, to straighten out their lives before they, eventually move on to try and change others. But in learning how to be responsible, self-reliant, independent, they gain those abilities to then move on to the next step of helping others do the same, to become a leader, to make appropriate decisions. So it all starts with you learning how to start a fire.
Yeah.
You know how to start a fire? You
I've
should know how to
I
start a fire.
practiced that in
I mean,
Philly. That was a big thing I used to
yeah.
do a lot.
This year has been huge for me when it comes to everything that you're mentioning right now, specifically just being stuck inside of New York City during the supposed worst of it, during the middle of the lockdowns, during the middle of the highest supposed epidemic, and realizing that I'm surrounded by a bunch of unprepared individuals that
Who are
don't
hungry.
know, who are hungry
And thirsty.
that will do anything to survive. We're living right on top of each other, and it just takes the trucks not coming in. That's it.
The bigger
for
issue,
utter madness
but
to
you know,
happen.
the big issue is there's an optimism and a normalcy bias. So the optimism bias is it can't happen here. The normalcy bias is that'll never happen. But people don't realize when it came to, say, the fall of the Soviet Union, people had been living their whole lives, generations, under the system, then one day was gone. There are civil wars that broke out where people thought it would never happen. In fact, in the United States Civil War, people were gathering on the hill near, Fort Sumter, thinking a war will never break out, having a picnic. And then all of a sudden they watched people getting disemboweled in explosions and were like vomiting up their picnic like, wow, it's really happening.
Yeah.
People think, what's funny is, you ever watch a prepper show?
Yes.
And it's funny how people mock and ridicule preppers. You know why that was always confusing to me? You'd think a consumerist capitalist society would venerate preppers. Buy more. Buy 30 years of beans and put them in your basement. Buy. After 9/11 happened, George W. Bush, what did he say?
Store up, go buy, go purchase.
Go to the mall, go buy stuff, buy stuff.
Yep.
That's why I always found it funny that preppers were looked down upon. If anything, the consumerist American
Well,
society
they were
is like,
targeted, they were laughed at, but this year in 2020,
They're
they
laughing
came
at
out,
us.
they came out as the real MVPs here. And I remember being in New York and saying, I need to get out of here. In March, I went out to a farm in Pennsylvania and realized I have no skills at all. I can't do this. I can't figure this out. And I was stuck saying, this is either going to make me or break me. I decided to move up to New Hampshire, went up there. I was supposed to do a whole tour all around the United States, but ended up staying there on this synchronistic kind of event. I was looking for an RV, found a friend who needed one fixed. It was, too expensive for me to afford. I ended up fixing it at my friend Jay Noon's big compound where he literally is a diesel mechanic and fixer-upper guy who wears overalls, is covered in grease all the time, and could fix anything with all the tools that he had in his shed. And I spent 5 months there learning just the basics of being a mechanic, just the basics of welding, and also a lot of survival self-defense training courses that I ended up teaching people. So it's been something that's been absolutely incredible, living in the middle of nowhere. And there is something to say about individuals when they live in the country automatically turning more either libertarian, anarchist, or right-wing because of the self-sufficiency, because of the importance of understanding that in nature, it is wild, it is crazy, it is hectic, but it's only you and yourself that are responsible for your butt, and no one else is.
You know what makes people right wing when they do this, when they go through this stuff?
The hard work.
The hard work.
Yes.
And then when someone comes along, imagine this: you worked for 8 hours, you finally built your little shelter, you got a fire going, you caught some rabbits, and then some dude walks up and goes, "Can I get some of that?" You're gonna be like, "Bro,
Nice.
I got barely enough for me, and it was really hard to do. Come on, dude, share."
Yeah, we
like,
made
you
people,
got more than me.
We made people work. We had chickens running around all over the property. People had to catch them with their bare
That's
hands
work, dude.
during my training courses.
That
It was
is
pretty
work.
funny to watch because a bunch of city slickers came. A bunch of people from Boston, New York, New Jersey
Catch
came to
chickens.
New Hampshire for my survival training course, and they were literally running around trying to catch these chickens. They had to catch them, and then they had to chop off their heads, pluck them, take out the organs, cook them, eat them as they make their own
So much
shelter.
work.
And
That's
it's
great.
a lot of work.
What's the best trick to catch a fleeing chicken?
Corner
fast.
it.
You make a lasso with some twine,
No, that
No,
didn't
you
work
have
at
to
all.
and
corner
then
it.
it's pulling you, and you're like, "Ah!"
You
Yeah,
have
that's
to
what
corner
happens.
it, and sometimes even just walking straight up and feeding it.
Or birdshot.
Oh yeah.
Well, no, then
Great
you're going to
advice.
have a whole bunch of pellets in your chicken that you're going to try to eat, and you don't want
Yeah,
birdshot in your-
you gotta do some work,
But
it is easier.
Yeah, but making your own shelter, making your own fire, filtering your own water, that is an extensive, exhausting activity, and those are the basic necessities that people take advantage of every single day. After going through that chicken, after having to catch it, after gutting it, after cutting it, after putting it on a plate and cooking it, you realize how absolutely absurd it is that there's chicken thighs for $1 at
Yeah,
Walmart.
I know,
You're like,
right?
what are they doing that they have to mass produce such food so quickly, so efficiently to make this $1 when it took me all day to make this chicken to produce it into a sustainable meal?
we
We
waste
need
it.
kids to experience
Yeah.
to learn this.
Yes.
Right?
Well, my friend Jay Noon,
To value
he
it.
had man camp. That's what he called it.
Man camp.
And it's literally where kids come. I was a part of the kids. I'm not afraid to admit that. And he teaches them just basic things like welding, using a wrench, using a hammer, making shoe horses, making hangers, whatever
Folding
it is.
steel for his katana.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
We did
Forging.
we did a lot of different stuff, but there is something to say about this kind of attitude and the type of people in New Hampshire that are in the wild. There's some city folks, there's a big Free State Project initiative, but one thing that really sparked my interest in New Hampshire wasn't just the community, but also the lack of government. New Hampshire, you don't need car insurance, you don't need helmets, you don't need seatbelts when you drive. But they have some of the safest roads in the United States. They're the #1 in homeschooling with the highest IQ in all of the United States. They have the most Bitcoin transactions per capita. Go ahead.
Wow.
There's a video game YouTuber
Yep.
who was playing a game. It was called like City States, and he normally it's like you choose how much taxes you want, how wages, stuff like that, and then you build buildings. He decided as a gag to make a totally lawless society,
And it
under
thrived.
under the assumption it would be chaos and destruction and fighting and poverty. This video is amazing because his shock and confusion as he removed all the laws, there were no poor people. Everybody lived in luxury buildings. There was an abundance of wealth, and he's laughing like, "What's happening? There's no regulations, but
No
there's
taxes,
no pollution,
no
there's no
inspections."
poverty, no crime."
Amazing.
And it was gone. The video went
Yeah.
crazy.
It could get to a
viral.
point where technology is so good that we can go back to before the era of regulations and have a new freedom.
Well, there's a lot
Yeah,
of
if we create like an AI that just forces us to live under the robo boot,
encourages us to live.
I don't know. I'm not for that, but
But we got crypto. We have like desalination.
Crypto, homeschooling, and people arming themselves and defending themselves in New Hampshire in record numbers. And New Hampshire is one of the most Second Amendment friendly states in all of the United States, and it has the least amount of homicides and gun deaths in the nation. So
It's
when
expensive,
you
though.
look, when you look at, it's expensive when it comes to. Let's talk about some of the negatives, because you need to talk about both of the sides here. You do have property taxes, but you do have record low taxes when it comes to everywhere else. But the property taxes are really high, and you do have an opioid epidemic that has hit New Hampshire extensively hard, and you're seeing the effects of it, especially in Manchester, where you're seeing a lot of people addicted to meth. So there are positive and negatives. It does get really cold there, hence why I am here with you, living in your parking lot right now.
That's right.
Making my way slowly down to Florida. But I will be back in New Hampshire. I absolutely love it there. I love the community, and I love individuals.
We're going to get a farm, though.
Yeah.
So-
I like
so-
that idea, too, because we might do, I don't know if you want to...
Survival
We might do
vlogs.
survival trainings.
But it's not even that. It's about having fun.
Grow corn.
It's about making
Yeah.
a video of Luke chasing a chicken around.
Yeah,
It'd be
it's
hilarious.
amazing. Once you get into this hard work, it's so fun, it's so rewarding, and it's so amazing to be able to do this stuff, even though it is difficult. But that's what life is. Life, if everything was easy, if everything was handed to you, if Democrats and the globalists had their way and they would give you everything, you wouldn't appreciate it, and it would be filled with crap.
Think about you walk into Walmart and you're like, I'll just take 2 fried chickens.
Dude.
Yes.
Whole chickens.
Yeah.
No, dude.
They hand
Every
them right
time
to
I
you.
walk into
Yeah.
Walmart, I'm like, how much of this are we wasting? I hate it
Dude,
so much. I
yeah.
hate that feeling.
Even-
And what you were talking about, raising kids to like take care of chickens and stuff, like your little camp, your little kids camp. That's how I was raised.
Yeah.
I remember I raised chickens to lay eggs. That was my
Now-
first job.
Now, this is my question towards Tim. You raise a country like that, that's armed, that prepares their own food, that is ready for anything,
Fascism.
that doesn't need any government, that doesn't need anything. How will the Chinese invade? like what was the thing that
Oh,
the,
it's
what
really-
was the thing that
it's-
the
it's
Japanese
simple.
said when they were talking about
That's not a
invading
real
the United
quote.
States? It's not?
No.
I thought it was,
Sadly,
so I'm
I know.
mistaken.
A rifle behind every blade of
Boo.
grass.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you want to know how they'll invade? Exactly.
Culturally.
Yep.
No.
Neural net.
No. It's called a bunch of individuals who are responsible only to themselves and surviving for themselves. One day a businessman comes along and says, we want to get a proposition for you, and we'll pay you a really great rate to do X, Y, or Z. And they'll say yes. And then they start getting this money, and they don't want to back down. And they say, now do this, now do this, now do this. And slowly but surely, they increment people towards policies that benefit them. And then you end up with a Chinese businessman comes and buys massive swaths of property across the Western United States. And people just say, yeah, amazing.
Maybe what
It's literally happening right now.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening right now.
Right.
But you have a whole bunch of lemmings, a whole bunch of unprepared people with their flip flops and their lattes being
That's not
on
the
the
issue.
government teeth that aren't even questioning it or doing anything to
Let
be
me ask you a question.
self-sufficient and are being
No,
dependent.
stop.
Shout out to lattes,
If, they,
by
if,
the
a if a Chinese businessman came to you and offered you $500,000 for your RV, would you say yes?
For my, yeah, sure.
Of course you would. And then you'd be like, wow, now they own your RV. That's what they're doing with land. And people are going, wow.
And
they're
life
taking the
insurance
cash.
policies.
Yeah.
Have you seen those commercials where they want to buy your life insurance policy? If you don't need your life insurance policy anymore,
haven't seen that.
sell it.
I
It's
don't know. Yeah.
insidious. People are
I don't know about all that.
desperate for
Yeah.
money. It's on keeps
No,
showing
I
on
know.
Fox. It's crazy.
But
People-
what
yeah.
future do you think is possible if people became self-sustainable? Do you think my future or Tim's future? Should we do like a voting thing?
I
Maybe
think
people
without
vote one
a
or
cohesive
two?
community,
Yeah.
you'll end up with
But I think
You're
we
being
would if we
bought out.
have an identity as people. And I think that an identity and I think a culture should come first and should be prioritized, because right now
Fascism.
culture is being thrown into the trash. It has the worst elements in it right now that are highlighted.
It's dominated by
that
the
promote the
left.
most degenerate, disgusting behavior possible that breaks up the family unit. If you look at what they're pushing out there in mainstream culture, it's drugs, it's alcohol, it's chemicals, it's you now even have mainline rappers
Well, hold on,
talking
hold
about
on,
the
wait,
latest
wait.
pharma medicine
stop.
that they want to
Hold on.
induce with themselves
Wait,
with cough syrup.
Hold on.
That's literally what
you
kids
married?
aspire to be.
You married?
Not yet.
How old are you?
I don't know.
How
How old do
are
I
you?
look like?
Genetic
old-
age.
how
or
old do I look like?
34?
How old are you?
34? 34 years old? You got any kids?
Working on it.
34, no.
Maybe we'll see. Maybe I
Unmarried,
do.
no kids, driving
Maybe.
around in an RV. Mr. DMT, psychedelics, ayahuasca.
Thing is, there's
You-
What
gonna
is
criticize-
this judgment here?
You're gonna
What is
criticize-
this- what is this
you're gonna
criticism?
criticize-
I'm not criticizing.
No.
I'm
You're gonna
making
say-
a comment on culture.
Yes, and you contribute to that culture.
Depends. Maybe, but not to the extensive elements of totally selling out. We all sell out in some ways. That's basically undeniable because there's no other way in mainline society right now, of course. But again, we all strive towards being something better. And I think striving is the first step into getting it. And I am making decisions and goals that are a lot different than they were when they were influenced by culture. Because growing up in New York City, growing up in Brooklyn, I was absolutely influenced by the worst elements of mainstream society and their ideas of glorifying drug dealers and glorifying violence and glorifying this idiocy. I was an absolute total victim of it, and I perpetrated it to the fullest extent. Well, whatever, you know what I mean. I'm just speaking expressively here. But essentially, when it comes to understanding it, that is the first step towards defeating it. And we could all be better, and I'm making decisions to be as best as I can, and I'm making the best decision to move away from that and move forward towards a family and kids and
now it's time for super chats.
Okay. Hey, before we go, can I into super chats before we continue? I want to start making ammo. I want to just shout out.
It's hard.
Legally, you can.
Yes.
You can buy all the pieces, and so I'm looking at getting a bullet press, a powder sifter, and then I think you got to buy casings.
Reloading.
A reloader, yeah. But
you're talking about reloading, not manufacturing.
Manufacturing is another level. So if you have any tips about how to manufacture and reload ammo, send it to me on Twitter because
there's a reason there's a bullet shortage because there's a lot of shortage of the materials that.
Here's what you need. You need charcoal, so burn wood. You need to find sulfur mine, and you need saltpeter, so bat crap,
like potassium
nitrate.
Why do I feel you're going to read the craziest comments about me now?
Here we go. Super chats. If you haven't already, smash the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and no, don't worry, they're all going to be mad about me.
We'll see.
Kevin K mentions the new proposal, a round of stimulus, $15, but only for those who take the vaccine. Yes. Not a joke. Tim, I sent you a link on Instagram. That is a crazy story.
I did pull that up.
Rose says, let's talk about a preponderance of evidence instead of widespread. Well, you don't need widespread evidence to change the results of an election if you just can get a swing county to have a swing, which gives a state, which gives a country to a certain president. Morning Featherheart says, the gulags of tomorrow will not be physical camps, but digital excision from society. Bans from social networks and financial institutions, maybe even ISPs, and you might as well be living in the wild. Bitcoin.
She made a very good point with a lot of people already having their banking, online banking taken away from them because of their political opinions. That has already happened in the United States. So I think the corporate overlords are somewhat of a bigger threat sometimes than the actual government.
When you were asking how to get out of China's grasp too, I thought getting off the US dollar and kind of diversifying into crypto is one way to protect yourself against Chinese corruption and invasion.
That just protects you as an individual and sacrifices the rest. We need a cohesive
if we as a
American
group could do that, I think would
response
be very valuable.
to stop it.
Yeah.
James High says everyone here should sign the petition from We the People Convention for Trump to declare martial law. And that is a bold statement. He says this was a theft and the American people know it. I don't know about that. I think that declaration is an invitation for civil war. And I don't think people realize what war is like.
It's funny when they're like, I don't want martial law. I want martial law.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's crazy.
The left is like, we should have martial law, the most extreme lockdowns ever. How dare Trump call for the same thing?
Yeah, it's insane.
What is
the Civic
going
Nationalist says, Luke, speak to Tim Kennedy. He is active SF and runs a school. Tim, Wednesday, War of 1812. James Madison declared the war to invade BNA. 1776 was over taxes for the 7 Years' War. Nice to see the Gondo working.
It'd be cool to have a gong here.
Mafu says this guy is already more likable than Destiny. Can you ask Luke to say, I don't know, as a test?
I don't know. Because I don't.
Because no.
Let's see. Someone mentioned Trump bringing troops home, sending 800 troops back from Somalia. I read that he was going to move them around to different bases. So,
well, it's supposed to happen in 2021, which if Biden comes in, he's probably going to reverse that.
Yo, you mentioned us having troops in Pakistan. What was that?
There's a lot of training forces inside of Pakistan right now that are training different sects of militants in that specific region. If you know Pakistan, it's essentially still a wild west with many factions vying for power, and the United States is invested in certain powers there prevailing, so they are training a whole bunch of Pakistani paramilitaries for their own kind of benefit.
Tom Mee says, are these judges and media making judgments on the criminal standard beyond a reasonable doubt, or the civil standard of 51% of probability. This, what we're seeing in all of the fraud cases is arbitrary semantic debate. The media will desperately say there's no evidence. They misconstrue what Bill Barr says, and they're clearly lying and trying. Ken Abbott says, stop calling them mainstream media. It implies credibility. Call them legacy media. It implies yesterday's culture and technology. Yeah, good point. Justin Doobie says, if you take your corruption case to the corrupt, what do you expect to happen?
That's how I feel about all this
point.
election fraud stuff right now. Like, who do we expect to tell us that it was fraud?
That's true.
Matthew Felton says, if Trump wins, we have a few more riots, National Guard called and done. If Biden wins, then in my opinion, 60% chance of the boog starting around February. I'm thinking slightly after March.
Depends when he's going to try to confiscate firearms or impose the tax on firearms. Then I think really is going to be a big test.
I think that's irrelevant. I think it'll
We'll
be a
see.
moot point. I think the national lockdown will result. I don't think what we're going to see is like a bunch of Trump supporting like conservatives putting on armor and then marching and left, right, left. What's going to happen is there's going to be areas like in New Hampshire where a bunch of people probably say it's not going to happen here, and they're going to put up roadblocks and they're going to stand guard and say, don't come in here. We don't care what you have to say. We have a constitution in this country.
We'll see another.
That's when it ignites.
$3 trillion bailout, then probably another one.
Dollar's going to tank.
Then we'll see bread lines, and then they're going to see violence in the bread lines.
Bro, we already have that already happened this year.
The bread lines.
We haven't seen violence in the bread lines yet.
Yes, we did. We absolutely did.
What happened?
Record
There
numbers.
was earlier in the year, numerous times in the bread lines, people started fighting each other and trying to break into the. There was one instance where they broke down the fence, broke into the building, and started just taking boxes of food and running off with it. And then the people there just started throwing the food because people were going nuts demanding it. So yes,
food
and that was
riots.
artificial. They made that happen by taking people's ability to work away. We have fat homeless people in this country.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that's not the issue. Was that they said none for you. Jared Backman says, Ian, you hurt my head, but that's why I love you. Keep speaking your honest thoughts, brother.
Thank you, Jared. I love you too, man.
Badger Toe says, Destiny has no idea election night. He was telling us, redcoats, we didn't lock down after we locked down from March to July. Trump orders Somalia troop withdrawal. Crazy. Let's see. Hermit Thrush says, Biden at 270 means one faithless electors, throws it to Trump. Hill Dog had 4 validated faithless electors. So the Supreme Court ruled they can't do that, though. I suppose, regardless of that, they could say, wow, no, and then just cause some kind of constitutional crisis. Yeah. Let's see. Stacey Murphy says, Trump train is gaining momentum. Forensic audits, footage of the votes being counted unlawfully, real data of unlawful voters having voted. Keep those windows boarded up. That's all true. Georgia has ordered a signature verification finally, following the release of this video footage showing people counting with no observers and then claiming there were observers. Doesn't matter. It's in dispute. And there is real data from Matt Brainerd, the Voter Integrity Project. There was on Fox News today, they had a guy who said, the judge in Nevada has received a list of 35,000 names of people who either voted twice in 2 different states or voted in Nevada without having legal residency. The judge has it. We'll see how he rules.
35,000 people.
And the margin in Nevada is what, 10K?
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. Sergeant Hodel says, guys, the People's Pundit examined a GA video and found election worker loading the same ballots 3 times into counting tabulator. This cannot be debunked by mainstream media. Interesting. So not just the video of them pulling them out, but the people then scanning and then scanning and then scanning again. Interesting. Wow. Chris Pavetto says, lately, when we chat about reform on policies, police, and government, it seems to teeter near accepting a few ideas from the Great Reset. Where do we find the balance of liberties plus reform without people having opening arms agreeing to reset? That's a big challenge, because it is true that, when people say like, oh, we should social distance and we should wear a mask and do certain things, it's people saying we accept some of what they're putting forward, and maybe it's because people are acting in good faith. That we know there's COVID. We know it's got lingering effects that are very damaging. We know it can kill old people. We want people to die. So we want to be rational, reasonable individuals, but they're not being reasonable in return.
Who?
The government, the Democratic governors. Ven Sangri says, can Ian read the quote out loud? I think he will get it if he reads it. Which quote was that? I don't know.
Biden quote.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Thank you. I'll do that later, actually. I'm probably going to listen to it again and again.
All right, let's see.
Go to sleep to it.
Jessica
I'm not.
Burleson says Trump answers only to his ideals for America. I think he didn't pardon Assange because his source is a national security issue. But my favorite Trump thing is he answers to no one except the people and his vision of America at its best. Well, I think most people want pot legalized and they want nonviolent offenders with review to be pardoned, nonviolent drug offenses. The review is because some might plead down to lesser charges and they maybe are violent. And I think the people want Snowden and Assange pardoned. I think that's overwhelmingly Trump supporters agree with this. I look at some of the Trump forums where they're saying Assange and Snowden exposed the deep state. Trump should pardon them outright.
There's a reason every presidential candidate campaigns on ending the war and giving people more civil liberties. So I think that's very clear, and I think that's what government should do if they keep promising it.
All right, let's see what we got. Omega B3N says the needs of the individual are the needs of the many because the many are made of individuals. This is why individual rights benefit everyone.
I agree.
We are only as strong as our weakest link.
That's very true.
If
And
every
I totally agree
person-
with that person. That's
Yep.
a very good comment and very good commentary, especially how politicians and elected officials should be seeing each citizen. The biggest minority of them all is the individual, and we should protect that individual at all costs.
Acoustic Theory says, Journal Nature Medicine, quote, a SARS-like cluster of circulating bat coronaviruses shows potential for human emergence, co-author. Shi-Zheng Li, Wuhan Institute of Virology, 2015 gain of function study. That's what Luke was bringing up.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for that.
Alex
Wow,
Jones
5
mentioned
years.
there was an article from New Scientist that said they were developing something they called SARS-CoV-2, and and they were like, "This is not the same thing."
It wasn't new. It was like new dash scientist. Is it different than new scientist?
It was a NewsGuard certified
Yeah.
source. That's all. And then Jones was like, "Well, Microsoft says it's good, then it must be good, right?" I'm like, "There you go," because they fund it. Glitchy Boy says, in regards to trusting service members, I'd trust an enlisted member, maybe a lieutenant, but no one captain or higher. High-ranking officers are basically military politicians. I hear that.
Essentially,
Yeah. Binary Evasion says, if you watch the video on the after-hours vote counting, you will see the lady in purple scan the same ballot stack 3 times. Whoa. I mean, how do you deny that?
You can't.
This is getting spicy.
It
now.
was the dash scientist. Was
The
the
dash
that-
scientist, yeah.
Thanks.
Rita
That's my
Ho
neurosis.
says, I am from Taiwan and I am scared what would happen to my family, friends, and people in Taiwan in the next 4 years if Biden eventually becomes the POTUS. Because China is preparing for the invasion and the annexation of Taiwan.
We talked about this Wednesday
Yup.
extensively.
And Joe Biden's going to go, he's going to be sitting there with his furrowed brow as there's going to be video playing of destroyers, and then U-boats storming the beaches, and he's going to go,
Come on.
come on, man. Come on.
Look.
You know, China, you're doing the thing.
Fact of the matter.
Absolutely correct.
The fact of the matter.
He loves that phrase.
Sure, no.
And then he
Taiwan.
loves his lists. 1, something, something. 2,
And then
something,
nothing else.
something.
At least
Yeah.
it can count.
That's it.
Eric Miller says Luke Rudkowski is actually an alias. He's actually Kick Butowski,
Oh.
suburban daredevil, all grown up.
I knew
I'm
it.
kidding. Love the show and keep up the good work.
Is that a real person?
Citizen7 says, I'll bet $10 this super chat never gets read.
Oh.
Now you have to super chat more.
Uh-oh,
Another
Tim got you.
$10. David Franco Jr. says, this dude is a smart dude. He knows what's up and can defend his position with quickness. Well, actually, Luke's written it all down because he's
I
prepared.
like taking notes, and I like studying, and I like knowing my stuff. But I'm not always right. I get things wrong. No one's perfect, and I'm infallible, just like everybody else is.
I've been watching
But
Luke.
do your own homework. This is my main thing I've been saying from my first video. Don't ever trust me. Do your own homework. Do your own research. And I want to make sure I'm prepared so you guys know what to research and study yourselves so you can make up your own mind.
I've been watching Luke since 2010, 2009,
Oh, cool.
and his work is incredible. Like, looking back, I believe that humanity will look at it as a boon. I don't know. I was
perhaps.
just
Tim's
fascinated
not
with your
impressed.
stuff.
No,
man.
no.
It
History's-
was so. It kept
history's
us out of
written by the
war in
winners.
Syria.
History is written by the
Some of
winners,
the
yeah.
stuff that you guys were doing kept us out of the Syrian war.
Almost.
Big
It was
time.
a roadblock.
Yeah.
Dude,
a
check
lot of
out
this-
We Are Change.
A lot of the stuff that
thank
was
you.
going on
Oh,
in the
yeah,
early
it's-
2010s from independent media, many of the hacker journalist types and data researchers really did work really well to stop the conflict in many of these places.
There was no restrictions on independent media back then. It was just beginning to restrict independent voices, third-party voices, smaller voices, mom-and-pop shop media organization voices that actually made the difference and told people the truth. And that's why it was such a threat, and that's why they're shutting it down. And they've shut us down very effectively. And they limited my organization extremely hard, and they hit me very hard. I'm barely, surviving, but I am.
In the wilderness.
Yeah.
McKeitsley says, I'd love to go to man camp. Sounds amazing. Is it only in New Hampshire, or is there a man camp in California?
No, man camp is in New Hampshire under J. Noon, but if you go to the Free State Project, you could probably get involved with that. We have a large number of projects and different things we're doing. I'm going to be back there for the spring, and I'm going to be doing more survival training courses there if I can't find more ones down the road from here all the way to Florida.
Heather Cummins says, you can't store enough food. You need a renewable food source. I raise meat rabbits. I butcher 30 a month to feed the family. Chickens too. But you guys know what rabbit starvation is?
No.
Rabbits don't have enough fat. So it's something called rabbit starvation, where people only eat rabbits, but you eventually aren't getting enough, nutrients and fat your body needs to survive. So rabbits you can eat, and you can raise them. Probably got to supplement it with chickens, maybe some kind of plant.
Coconut.
But I tell you, that's why a lot of people will probably move to a climate where you can get year-round farming. Mm-hmm. Or you go to a place like Florida, there's just fruit and foods everywhere.
Yeah,
just like
swampland.
Yep. Daniel Hawk says, Lids and Ian are bae. Tim is okay, but I love him anyway. Luke rocks.
Yeah.
Jared Teal says, question for Luke. Dude, you look exactly like me. I assume you're Polish. Are you Prussian? Plus, I've also talked about guns as assets to people. Thank you.
Polish, born and raised.
Prove it. Speak Polish.
Co ty chcesz, żebym ja ci powiedział?
What?
We are going to
Did you just get me demonetized in Polish?
Maybe. We'll see. But no, I'm very Polish, very proud. We just had pierogies at the house a couple days ago.
We did. It was good.
And it was pretty good. Yeah.
Sour cream.
Yeah.
Potato and sausage of some sort.
Pierogies, pickles, sauerkraut, all the way.
Let's see. What is this? What is this? We got. We just had a YouTube. I love it when they jump. We get too many super chats at once, and then.
Success problem.
Lance Atwell says Harrison Deal, a Loeffler staffer and Governor Kemp's daughter's boyfriend, died this morning in a car crash that looked like he hit a pallet of C4. People are talking about it. That's crazy stuff.
Yeah, we were looking at that earlier, right?
You know what the thing is? People think it's political.
Yeah.
And this is what I say when you see stuff like this. People will be like, you're going to hear on the left, no, it's no big deal. You're going to hear people on the right saying, this is fishy, something's going on. It doesn't matter what's true. You know why? It matters what people believe. And people are at such a point where they really distrust each other, where they're going to say, this is political. Or they're going to make the insinuation and be like, look at this is crazy, right?
Yep, you're right.
Sometimes car accidents happen.
Exactly. That's true too.
But hey, sometimes political hits happen. Not entirely sure why some low-level staffer for a Senate candidate. I mean, I get it. It's one of the most contentious Senate races right now, but Let's see. Justin Smith says, did I miss the coverage of the latest Biden gaffe? You did.
Yep.
It was funny.
I will resign. Citizen 7 says, I'm paying up. I'm a man of my word. Good on you, Citizen 7.
Woohoo.
Marksman says, hey, Tim, love the show. Could you read the poem by Henry Lawson? Every man should own a rifle. The poem is dated 1907, so before World War I. And the similarity to now is uncanny. Keep up the good work. Love the music video.
I'll look it up.
You should look it up right now. It's the poem by Henry Lawson, Every Man Should Own a Rifle. Rachel Taylor says, we assume the dirty work is all behind closed doors. So the left can showcase corruption as long as we are fearing what we can't see. Indie media shines a light on the creep in the corner sniffing hair. Keep shining for us. We'll try my best. Bass player says, hey, Tim, check out Serpentsa and Lawai 86 for guests. Both lived in China for years and currently live in California.
Yes, they are on my short list.
Shun Ryunji Matoi. Hey, Luke, Tim, Ian, and Lids. What do you think about HR 5736, 2011 to 2012, that has made Section 230 erode from its original intent and made Twitter the hellhole it has become with the propaganda BS? I don't know what those House resolutions are or that House resolution is.
Me neither.
Jake Durham says, it'd be pretty cool if you had on Trumper for Yang. He can make a solid conservative case for UBI and maybe show some nuance to it. Let's shift the culture. That'd be pretty interesting. I'd love to do that. Calvin says, Luke, if I can't trust the start of your claims, then you might as well have the 7-figure Cuomo salary on CNN. Well, let's see. Tyler Page says, Tim only knows how to make gunpowder because of Dr. Stone. No, it was because Luke was like, you should make bullets. And I was like, let's Google search how to do it. And it was like sulfur, charcoal, and saltpeter. And then I was like, where do we get those things? And it was like sulfur mines, burning wood, and bat poop. What was the other place to get a niter? From
Fertilizer.
From what?
Fertilizer.
Yes.
What you have to make that. I mean,
You have to like.
we're talking about in the wild. If you're in the middle of the woods, you're buck naked.
I'm not playing with no bat poop in 2020.
You're in the middle of the woods. You're buck naked. How do you make bullets? How do you make gunpowder?
First, you get a spear, and you use that. Then you get a bow, and then you gotta go from there.
Yeah.
And, I don't know. I haven't gone that far yet.
Then you look for red
bow and
rocks,
spears.
and you melt them in your fire, and then you fold the steel 50 times.
Then you stab a deer.
Someone's It's Crazy Canuck says, love the show. Keep up the good work, guys. Keep it real. Look forward to what y'all come up with next. Cheers from Canada. Nick Smith says, guess I'll be enlisting in the Taiwanese military.
Oh, geez.
Ben Boucher says, great show, guys. I'd say top 10 Timcast. It's always fun watching two old friends and titans of indie news go at it. Keep up the great work. We need both of you right now. And that's why Luke is in a trailer in my parking lot. Luke's
living in a parking lot, guys.
Yeah,
Living
but
the dream.
now that I've made the joke, Luke's got one of the most epic RV production setups.
It's not that epic.
I'm so
it's
jealous.
It's like a 2013 old trailer, but it's
I went out.
very
I went out
cozy.
and bought one.
Yeah. Yes.
Just today?
Tim just bought
Yeah.
one today. We just
Like,
came from
spur of the
RV
moment.
It's not
dealership.
hard. It's financing. It's a couple $100 a month.
Which, if the dollar collapses, and also
Yeah.
people need to know, it was a little contentious today. That's how me and Tim have been talking to each other ever since
Forever.
day one. We've been debating.
You know what I said?
We've been debating and arguing like this for a while, and I absolutely love it. We don't see eye to eye on many things, and I love the debates. I love iron sharpening iron. I love the challenges, and I think it's awesome that we could be friends for so long and disagree so much and be able to still, at the end of the day, do really cool stuff and let me live in your parking lot.
Back in 2011, I was like, Luke, one day I'm going to be like in my late 50s and I'm going to be the CEO of this massive media conglomerate. And I'm going to have like this suit on, walking out of a big meeting with the president. And then you're going to run up to me and be like, Tim, why did you do it?
And I'm going to try to take you down by confronting you outside of your major corporation.
Get Luke out of here. Get him out of here. Security. And then you're going to be like, what happened to you, man? You've changed. And I'll be like, get out of here. And then I'm going to brush off my expensive $10,000 suit and then be like, drive, and then throw $100 bills out the window.
And I'll be running after you just like I did Henry Kissinger. I confronted Henry Kissinger literally when he was down the block in a car, and I followed his car for about 20 blocks running after it in the middle of New York City. Got him at
Remember when we randomly bumped into Rumsfeld?
That was amazing. Yes, and asked him about what was it, the $7 trillion that was missing.
He's like, "What are you talking about?
I took a selfie with him, and then it was just absolutely incredible.
And he was like, "There was missing money? Huh,
Yeah.
no idea. Huh?
Yeah.
What about that?"
We ran into Anderson Cooper, which was also a very
You
fun
asked him if he was in the
endeavor,
CIA.
which you didn't like.
Yeah, you asked him if he was in the CIA.
No, I asked him about Operation Mockingbird and how CIA officials were
come
caught manipulating the mainstream media.
Why
and
are
were
you
working
asking
inside-
Anderson Cooper?
Because he was trained as a CIA agent.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
he was?
Exactly.
Yes.
He spent 2 years with the CIA. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yes.
Before he left, printed his own press badge and flew himself to was it Iraq to cover Desert
I
Storm
don't
or
know
something?
exactly, but he's the son of a Vanderbilt. He holds a lot of
right.
power and influence in higher society in New York
And he's
City.
a silver fox.
And he deserves some questioning. And I just like to, I would love to know his point of view about the CIA and the mainstream media and their long history together as they've been, working together for so long.
That'd be awesome.
That's what I did. Tim didn't like that though. He got mad at me.
Because it felt like you just.
I know.
But there's specific things you could have asked him about.
Yes.
There's photos out of CNN. There was the accusations that CNN was staging.
I
things
got
out
him
of
3
Desert
times.
Storm.
I confronted him 3 times, and one of them was about their kind of obsession about Iraq and Syria and how horrible they are, but not Saudi Arabia.
Exactly.
So that's another thing. So yeah.
So when I was with you and you were like the CIA, I was like, you could have asked him something specific.
Well, I did. I had many.
I know.
And then he ran away with all of his security guards and hid in
What did
his
he
car.
say to you? He was like, "Come on, dude." When you
forgot
asked him
what
about the
he said.
CIA,
He was really sassy. He got a lot of sass.
I heard he doesn't wash his pants.
Now we're talking.
I don't
What?
know.
It was brought up on his show around the same time. That's why I bring it up. It was someone talking to him, and then he started laughing, and they were like, "Is it true the rumors that you don't wash your jeans? Like when you're working, he's wearing jeans and he never washes them."
Yeah, you don't have to.
And he laughed, and he was like, "I don't." And then they started laughing at him. Yeah, that's funny though.
He's a hippie.
Robert Stratton says, Tim, before you give Mr. Snowden a free pass due to nonviolence, please weigh that against the vulnerable people's lives he may have put at risk. Just saying. The thing about Snowden, he's not a whistleblower. He's a leaker. There's a big difference. Julian Assange is literally just a journalist. Unless they can come up with some other evidence accusing him of anything. The same thing with Snowden. Snowden's issue is I've actually been pretty critical of Snowden. However, I still think that given the circumstances of what we uncovered and the fact that it's now been quite a long time and the tremendous good that came out of it, I kind of roll my eyes and say I think he should be pardoned. It's for me it is rather a bit of a coin toss, but considering what we learned about the NSA, the spying, the deep state lies under oath kind of stuff, at that point I'm like just
General
let him come home
Hayden
and
swore under oath that there
Exactly.
was no spying program,
Exactly.
no one was being followed, no one was being tracked, no one was being databased. I went up to him and I confronted him about the NSA officers that were caught spanking it to people's private pictures,
Yep.
which actually happened, but no one believed it until Edward Snowden
Exactly.
released the information. And
So that's
General
why-
Hayden, even when I confronted him one-on-one about that, he was like, it never happened. I don't know what you're talking about. You're
Yeah.
crazy. I'm like, you're spying on people. He's like, nope.
Assange shouldn't be locked up for any reason at all.
Yeah.
It's clearly they're trying to
If
kill
you're
the
going to
guy.
lock up Assange, you're going to have to lock up, people from any news organization from anywhere around the world if they say anything negative about the United States. That's the very dangerous precedent that Julian Assange sets. He's a publisher. He released information, and he's not even an American citizen. And you add all those layers together, if he goes to jail, that sets a very, very dangerous precedent for anyone who wants to say anything about the U.S. government in the future.
Jerry Lee says, Tim, the gunpowder you mentioned is black powder. It's different. Be careful. Will do.
Yes.
Yeah, let's
So,
not play around with that until we get some professional
I thought that was important to mention
Yeah.
because I don't want anyone to think
We're
what
not
I'm
doing
saying
it.
is- right.
But
Although
we're
I
looking
also-
into it.
I also read that people can make black powder, but you can use ammonium nitrate instead of potassium. But that's really, really dangerous because it's concussive.
Clearly, we need more research and
Well, just don't
more
do
professionals.
it.
Yeah,
So
we're not doing
I
it.
bring that bit up to say, do not do that.
However, I would like to foray into learning how. I think as
Under controlled circumstances with a
Yeah.
professional who can teach you how to
that'd
do
be
it.
great.
That's what you guys got to do. That being said, it is 10:30. Luke, thanks for hanging out. What's your plan? You're gonna you're gonna go in the parking lot, take your RV, and head off back into Wild Blue yonder.
I'm gonna be making my way south unless Tim could keep me here. He's trying to keep me here. Maybe I don't know.
There's a battle royale coming. There
could be. We can't release the details.
We're
but,
trying to
yeah.
break the internet.
Yes, and if we're going to break the internet, I will definitely be here.
I love it.
We're talking about plans that we can't tell you right now. I hate to do this.
The biggest
but
podcast in existence that will have ever happened.
Ever. And we're
And I'll get
calling
banned.
it-
I'll totally. They'll ban me. Dude.
I labeled it the Royal Rumble.
Yes,
And
the Royal
it was my-
Rumble.
yeah, it's going to be wild.
I'm
So if
already
that happens,
losing my mind
I'm
over it.
here. Maybe I'll stay with Tim. I don't know. I'm like a hippie in many kind of different aspects of my life. I might go down south. I'm still looking for places to do survival training so I could offset my YouTube losses since I've been demonetized. My main YouTube channel is We Are Change. Check me out there. Your support is extremely appreciated and means more than ever to me. And thank you for having me. And thanks for debating with me. And thanks for being a friend for so long. And thanks for letting me crash in your parking lot.
I'll send you the invoice for the parking lot. No problem. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Parler at Timcast. Check out my other channels, youtube.com/Timcast and youtube.com/TimcastNews. We are live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Check us out on iTunes and Spotify. Give us some love, leave us a good review, and check out tomorrow. We put up clips from the show, so if you didn't see the whole show, there will be segments coming up about all the debates and all the fun stuff we do, and we'll break things down. And we will be back. What's today? Today's Friday.
Today's Friday.
Today's Friday. We'll be back Monday, 8 p.m., and we're going to have a really fun week next week. So we got some progressives or a progressive coming.
We do.
So this should be an interesting conversation for sure. Don't forget to follow Ian.
Yes, at Ian Crossland all over the internet. Before I go, I'd like to ask you, Luke, you have merchandise. You were showing me a little bit of it. Where can people check out your merch?
Well, thank you so much for generously doing that. If you wish to have the hat or the shirt that I had on in the last video, it is on teesprings.com/stores/wearechange or just wearechange.org. You could probably get it there. But thank you. I appreciate that.
And don't forget to follow at Sour Patch Lids.
That's correct. I am, in fact, on Twitter for my sins. Sour Patch Lids, LYDS.
Subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Hit that like button. Check us out on all podcast platforms. Leave us a good review. We will be eternally grateful. And share. Let people know if you like the show and to come and check it out. We do our best. Thanks so much for hanging out, and we will see you all Monday at 8 p.m.
Bye, guys.